Yeah, nobody wants to be there at any stage of the season. You want to be, as you've rightly said there, Colin, in 10, 11 seasons that Palace have been in the Premier League, they've always been consistently a mid-table side. I don't know if that's what you want, if that's what supporters want. It's mediocrity, I suppose, but look, everybody knows that you have to be in the Premier League. You have to be playing Premier League football. That's where the money is. That's where the big bucks are. So it's a struggle for Palace, because the longer you're down there, the more difficult it becomes, and the confidence just drains out of you. You wonder where you're going to get results from, and you go out and you go a goal down and you think, oh, here we go again, we're going to get back again. So they need to start finding results. I mean, we came here last season and Palace were excellent. They were on a decent little run, to be fair, but they were, and you thought they're not a bad side, these, and didn't expect them to be in the position that they're in. But as we said a few minutes ago, the Premier League this season's been a really strange one, from a results point of view, and from where teams are in the league. As I said earlier, I think Wharton not being in there is a huge miss to them. I think it's a massive miss. Yes, they've sold good players, but look at they've still got good players in their side. Eze, we've already mentioned, he's been a loss. Gahey, who we know, who all Newcastle fans know, he's become an established England international from a side that's second bottom of the Premier League.
Such is the nature. I keep talking about this as being a quaint stadium. The tunnel is single file, so Crystal Palace come out through the tunnel, but Newcastle United come outside from their dressing room and round the back of the tunnel, and then they meet at the corner flag. You can probably hear behind us now that both sides are coming out onto the pitch. We're only 3 or 4 minutes away from kick-off now. They're led out by their referee Darren England, who is from South Yorkshire, a very experienced referee, but actually just his 5th Premier League game of the season. He spent the summer refereeing in the Japanese J-League, so he's not done quite as many. He had his pre-season break, if you like, was a lot later than everyone else's, so done a few championship games here and there, just a 5th Premier League game of the season. The 4th official is Andy Davis, the 2 assistant referees Adrian Holmes and Andrew Fox, and thank you in advance to Crystal Palace for putting little symbols on the team sheet that tell us which assistant referee is which as well, because otherwise generally you've got absolutely no idea. The 4th official, like I say, Andy Davies. The video assistant referee, because it always is for Newcastle games, isn't it, is Jared Gillett, and his assistant is Akil Housen, as the 2 sets of players line up either side of the Premier League board on the halfway line, and then we'll go through and shake hands with each other as well. And both sides, because there is no kit clash, are going to wear their home strips. So I'll run you through those starting 11s again then. Nick Pope, of course, in goal for Newcastle United. Tino Livramento at right back, Lewis Hall at left back, Fabian Schär and Dan Burn returning after suspension are the 2 centre halves. Sandro Tonali comes into midfield in place of Sean Longstaff to accompany Bruno Guimaraes, the captain, and Joe Willock, those 2 who both went off injured against West Ham on Monday night, obviously fit enough to start today. And actually, having said all that, Newcastle United are not in the black and white stripes. We'll come back to that in a minute. Anthony Gordon on one wing, Joelinton on the other, Alexander Isak up front with his 5 goals already this season and 4 in 4 consecutive games before West Ham on Monday night as well. On the bench for Newcastle, as you would expect, given that we knew that Lewis Miley and Matt Targett had played for the development squad last night, then the bench is Martin Dubravka, the goalkeeper, and then Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson, Harvey Barnes, Will Osula, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron, Lloyd Kelly and Sean Longstaff. Crystal Palace made a couple of changes as well from their game last weekend. 2-2 draw at Aston Villa. Dean Henderson in goal, Mark Gahey, Maxence Lacroix and Trevor Chalobah, their 3 central defenders. Daniel Munoz as a right wing back, Tyreek Mitchell their left wing back. Jefferson Lerma, the Colombian who played under Eddie Howe at Bournemouth, comes into the middle of midfield alongside Will Hughes. He replaces Sheikh Doucouré actually, who's on the bench. Ismaila Sarr and Ebere Eze, who himself is back from injury, are either side of Jean-Philippe Mateta, who scored a couple against Newcastle the last time these two sides faced each other. And then on the bench for Crystal Palace, Matt Turner, the goalkeeper, and then Joel Ward, Eddie Nketiah back from injury as well, former Arsenal striker, Jeffrey Schlupp, Nathaniel Klein, Chris Richards, Sheikh Doucouré, Justin Devaney and Caleb Kapora. So Newcastle United in almost all white. It's that strip that's got the green flecks down the side, and they, unless the tossing of the coin makes things change, will be playing from left to right as we look at it. As with every single away game, John Anderson, it's about trying to keep the crowd quiet in the opening 4 or 5 minutes. And in fairness, Newcastle started brightly on Monday night. Yes, Isak's goal didn't count, but it was a bright start, and that's what's needed again.
Yeah, you always want to start bright. As I said, there's always a decent atmosphere here, and if Palace get their gander up, the noise here is very, very good. You want to quieten it as much as you possibly can. The only way that you do that is by starting well, by controlling the game, having most of the possession, and hopefully scoring early. But yeah, it's atmosphere. Even though it's a as we spoke about it earlier, Colin, it's one of the older stadiums. It's still got a decent atmosphere in here when they get going.
And they have now got going. We are underway at Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace against Newcastle United, live on BBC Radio Newcastle and on BBC Sounds this afternoon as well. So Crystal Palace in their blue and red stripes, playing from right to left, with the blue shorts and blue socks, playing from right to left, right in front of us. But Bruno picks the ball up for Newcastle on the halfway line, pokes it off Tyreek Mitchell and wins Newcastle United's first throw-in that Anthony Gordon thought about taking just inside the Crystal Palace half, but in the end leaves it to Tino Livramento. Both he and Lewis Hall, of course, playing together for England in the international break. Newcastle make a little bit of a mess of that, but do manage to keep the ball in play, if nothing else. And the spray from the pitch that comes up, the pitch was watered heavily before the game, and then the long ball down the left for Joe Linton up towards the left hand side of the penalty area. His first time cross is headed out only as far as Tonali, 35 yards out in the middle of the park, out to Livramento wide on this right hand side. Newcastle with a very bright opening 60 seconds, goes down the outside of Eze and down towards the byline as well. Livramento clips it over the keeper towards the far post, and it's headed away from underneath his own crossbar by Mark Gahey, and then the clearance is completed. But Newcastle have started very, very well. The ball is not out of play, so it's back with Scher inside the centre circle. Genuinely don't think Crystal Palace has touched the ball since they lost possession right after kick-off. Scher on the halfway line, supporting Movember. You can tell his moustache even from here. He gets to shave it off tomorrow if he wants to, but he goes long crossfield pass towards Joe Linton is cut out. Palace have the ball at the feet for the first time, and Ando, I know nothing's come of it, but it's a good confident start.
Yeah, we've seen this in the past, Colin, where they've started brightly. They started brightly the other night, if we're perfectly honest. But yeah, lively start, as I said, all about quietening the crowd down. All of a sudden, Palace, a few touches of the ball.
Yeah, the pressure from Newcastle was actually quite high that time, and Crystal Palace kind of semi-played through it, then ran out of steam, but have kept the ball at least. Mark Gahey inside his own half. Will Hughes fires it out towards Eze on this near side, who cannot keep it in play. It was having to be pretty acrobatic with his right heel just to try and keep it in play. He got a touch on it, but it's gone straight out for a throw-in that Tino Livramento will take. He has never scored a goal for anybody in senior football away from home. So wouldn't mind that run coming to an end today. It is so heavily watered, that side of the pitch in particular. When Newcastle play it between themselves along the ground, you can see the spray coming up, but it's with Lewis Hall now, the left back over the halfway line. Joe Linton, as we mentioned before, the left winger once again today, 5th game in a row really, and up he goes, and then back to Fabian Schär just inside the Newcastle United half, square to Dan Burn, and then out to Lewis Hall again. Palace just content to sit with everybody behind the ball. Livramento cuts inside from right wing back. Eddie Howe's old club, Bournemouth, take the lead at Wolves very early on in one of the other Premier League games today, but Newcastle dispossessed on the halfway line. Palace try and work it up through the middle, through Ismaila Sarr, but he runs straight into
poor touch, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they've won it back again. 3.5 minutes gone, goalless at Selhurst Park, and both sides just sort of feeling each other out, frankly.
Yeah. I mean, it's what you expect in Premier League games. You know, you expect sides to sort each other out, to feel each other out. There's a foul by Shah on Mateta. Mateta just sticking his backside into him. Shah all over him. But yeah, feel each other out. Don't want to give anything away early on.
Gateshead are a goal down already at Braintree in the National League. Braintree 1, Gateshead 0. And that goal early on for Bournemouth at Wolves, it was a penalty from Justin Kluivert, Patrick Kluivert's son. Crossfield pass is controlled. It was a ball forward by Palace that was controlled by Livramento, and then Bruno tries to send Isak in behind, but it's intercepted by Lacroix, who's then got the momentum forwards as well to go through the centre circle and all the way up towards the edge of the penalty area. Terrific defending from Sandro Tonali. He was having his arm tugged at the same time as well.
Brilliant.
And has done really well to clear it down the left hand side, but it's picked up by Chalobah, who then himself bursts forward. Another centre half getting forward for Palace. There's a collision off the ball. The ball comes into the penalty area of Newcastle, but it's cleared out, and Hall gets there first. He's fouled, I think, as he was clearing it, but the referee lets play continue because Joe Linton up towards the halfway line. The pass takes a deflection through the centre circle, doesn't reach Gordon, and so it's picked up again in the middle of midfield by Jefferson Lerma. Goalless here at Selhurst Park after 5 minutes. Live on BBC Radio Newcastle, Colin White and John Anderson with you here. As Mark Gahey carries it over the halfway line, inside to Lerma and to Hughes, and then out towards Chalobah again with a chance to carry it over the halfway line. But Newcastle, having put a press on a couple of times in this game already, just sit back this time, force Palace to go long. It's not a great defensive header from Joe Linton. Mateta tries to flick it on the edge of the penalty area. Burns saw it coming. Hall will keep it in play on the far side as well. Lovely little dummy from Joe Willock. Up to Isak, who just runs out of space, thinks he's got a kick for his troubles, but the referee decides there is no foul. Isak has gone down and stayed down, but it will just be a Crystal Palace throw on the far side, John Anderson.
Yeah, there's two players down and white. Was it Willock?
Willock's the other one.
Yeah, and Isak.
In fact, there's technically three, because Joe Linton is down in the penalty area away to the left hand side as well. Isak's back on his feet, but both Willock and Joe Linton are still down in completely different parts of the pitch, and both, I think, off the ball. Certainly not obvious challenge.
No,
I'll be honest, I can't explain.
No,
why
I mean the only
them
challenge that we've seen was on Isak on that far side. He ran the ball out of play and he went down. Joe Linton's back on his feet. Yeah. Willock's still down.
Yeah, and it's even from here, he's not looking like he's not rolling around. It's more, he's more disconsolate than in real pain, which is a bad sign. I mean, rather than a good sign. So there'll be a couple of different Newcastle medical staff come on now as well. Wolves have equalised at home to Bournemouth. It is Wolves 1, Bournemouth 1. Larsson with Wolves' goal. But Joe Willock, who only lasted 45 minutes against West Ham on Monday night, is back up on his feet again and is being taken off the pitch by he's changing his boots as well. It's not the reason he went down. Gateshead have equalised as well, so early goals in plenty of other places. It's Braintree 1, Gateshead 1. But this will restart, play will restart just with a Crystal Palace throw, and Joe Willock does look as if he is going to return to play, and there's no particular activity. Longstaff and Murphy went out.
You just wonder whether he went down just to change his boots.
Possible, yeah. Quite an extreme thing to do, but yeah, as I say, at least half of this pitch is quite wet. And Crystal Palace back in possession again, and just inside the Newcastle half. Newcastle with 10 men behind the ball, and literally 10 men because Willock is still off on the far side. Jefferson Lerma, 10 yards inside the Newcastle half, tries to spread it out to the far side of the penalty area. Joe Linton goes up for the challenge. I thought he'd won the header and therefore conceded a corner. So too did Daniel Munoz, but the referee Darren England says no, that is a Newcastle United goal kick, and Joe Willock is back on the pitch.
Yeah, he looks alright, moving alright. As I say, you just think that maybe he's gone down just to get a change of boots on, but
I mean, he went down about as far from the dugout as it's possible to be whilst still on the pitch. So you'd think he'd come over to this side if that was the only reason. But well, just to get it done quicker. But anyway,
well, no guarantee that you get it done quicker, though, is it?
I suppose. Goals galore at Molineux. Bournemouth now lead by 2-1 at Wolves. Those are the only goals in the 3 o'clock kickoffs. Palace through the centre circle. Ebere Eze, Crystal Palace's number 10, tries to find Mateta in behind. Good sliding interception from Fabian Schär, and Gordon is fouled as he tries to dribble past as well. So that will be a Newcastle free kick. But that's the danger, is when Eze picks the ball up in a bit of space. Yeah,
I mean, he just drops a little bit, isn't he? Drops between Mateta and the midfield, plays in that hole, got picked out, just tried to tread that ball. It was good defending in the end, stopped it getting through to the big forward.
Milos Kerkez it was who scored Bournemouth's second goal, so Bournemouth 2-1 up at Wolves. 3 goals in the first 8 minutes in that game, no goals in the first 9.5 here. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 0. But now Isak can send Gordon down the right hand side, 1-on-1 with Mark Gahey, level with the edge of the penalty area, cuts back and tries to go square, but it's a telegraph pass that's very easily cut out by Jefferson Lerma, who then goes long down the left for a foot race between Mateta and Byrne, just inside the left hand touchline. A couple of step overs from the Frenchman, tries to get the cross in towards the far post. He does. Pope comes and claims it above the head though.
It's a hopeful ball more than anything else, isn't it?
It was floated. It's the kind of one that he ought to be on the end of, but he'd found himself as a left winger and wasn't really anybody else.
Yeah, there was nobody
to aim for.
There was nobody in a Palace short in an advanced position either.
Bruno through the centre circle with his bright orange boots, square to Livramento, back to Byrne inside the Newcastle United half. First of 3 games in just over 7 days for Newcastle United. Liverpool come to St James's Park on Wednesday, and then you and Simon Pride are back down here in the capital at Brentford next Saturday. Isak wins the ball on the halfway line, gets a knock for his troubles, but it's come to Gordon, who tries to go square. It's deflected off Lerma and it's going to actually end up at the feet of
hasn't been able to keep it, Anthony Gordon, has he? Keeps giving it away.
And that was deflected.
And Isak's taken another knock.
Yeah, that was just a collision, but it's his right hip that he's holding. He's back up on his feet again, but not moving quite so comfortably yet. Palace play on. Mark Gahey goes square to Maxence Lacroix, and they'll go through from one centre half to the second and then to the third, with Trevor Chalobah just inside Newcastle's half. It's charged down by Joe Linton, goes straight out for a throw-in though on the far side. So Newcastle plays Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. Palace plays Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday. They're away at Ipswich on Tuesday night, and then Manchester City are here next weekend. What Crystal Palace have in the League Cup quarter-finals, and of course Newcastle welcome Brentford to St James's Park 7 days before Christmas. Crystal Palace go long through the middle from Henderson. Byrne wins the header ahead of Mateta though, and Lewis Hall happy to stroke it all the way back to Nick Pope. We had a decent opening 2 or 3 minutes, and now it's all settled down a bit. 12 minutes gone and it's goalless.
There's no real pattern to it at the moment, is it? Neither side have really been able to get hold of the ball and just string half a dozen passes together. It's all very cagey. And part of that stems from what we talked about before kickoff, which is both sides now quite content to sit and say, right, get through us, play through us, what have you got? Neither side wants to give anything away. It's a little bit cat and mouse at the moment. It is. Newcastle go from side to side, but still inside their own half. Then up to Joe Linton on the left wing, but runs straight into Munoz. He's kept the ball, Joe Linton, but he's back inside his own half. Done well to get the ball to Hall on the overlap, then cuts inside, and we're back with Fabian Schär inside the centre circle, but with a bit of space to move into. He decides to go out to Joe Linton quickly on the far side. Borderline offside, but the flag stays down. Joe Linton tries to cross towards the far post, but it's over the top of Bruno, and Gordon is not going to keep that in play. And given that he was clearly onside, given that the flag didn't go up, that's a waste. Yeah, it would have been interesting to see if Anton had a come of it, whether the flag had gone up or not. And once again Alexander Isak is down, and again it's from that. I think this is separate from whatever the first one was. It looks like he's holding his hip, doesn't it? Because the first one on the far side was a kick on the shin as he tried to dribble past the player. This second one was just a collision, not foul, just a collision near the centre circle a couple of minutes ago. He got himself back up and played on, but he's getting a bit of attention again now. Yeah, he just ran into it. It's momentum took him into Lerma, yeah. He's a solid boy to run into.
But yeah, it is that right hip and right side that's being sprayed at the moment. And so we have already had a couple of different Newcastle United injury stoppages. 3 goals in the 3 other games in the Premier League, but all of them in the same one. So it's Brentford 0, Leicester 0, Nottingham Forest 0, Ipswich 0, and Bournemouth leading 2-1 at Wolves. 3 goals in the opening 50 minutes in that game, and at Braintree against Gateshead. But unfortunately for Gateshead, they've come back and then gone behind again. Braintree 2, Gateshead 1 in the National League. The 5:30 kickoff in the Premier League, incidentally, is West Ham, who Newcastle played on Monday night, just after the international break, at home to Arsenal, who they played just before the international break. And then 4 games in the Premier League tomorrow as well. 3 at 1:30, Chelsea Villa, Man United Everton, and Spurs Fulham. And then probably the biggest game in the Premier League if you're a neutral so far this season, Liverpool against Manchester City, a 4 o'clock kickoff tomorrow afternoon. Alexander Isak has trotted over to the touchline on this left hand side, so he's still getting a bit of treatment, but does certainly look as if he's going to keep going. Newcastle with everyone behind the ball again. Palace in possession inside the centre circle. 15 minutes gone at Selhurst Park. Goalless. Live on BBC Radio Newcastle and on BBC Sounds. Mark Gahey, linked to Newcastle so much over the summer, goes square to Will Hughes, and then
it's all very,
and there is
very pedestrian, isn't it?
It is, but Newcastle are very, very deep here. They've got 10 men behind the ball, but they are exceptionally deep. Palace halfway inside the Newcastle half. The cross comes in. Byrne stretches and clears it, and it drops to the feet of Bruno Guimaraes. Back to Lewis Hall, who goes long, but it's hopeful up towards Gordon. A comfortable, easy header for Gahey, and Newcastle inviting the Palace pressure back on them again. Lerma to Hughes, tries to find space for Eza, is intercepted, but Palace keep the ball, and it's wide with Mitchell on this left hand side, midway inside the Newcastle half. It's controlled by Sarr on the edge of the penalty area. Eza's in behind, and it's high over the crossbar in the end. It's a Newcastle United boot that has got on the end of it. They wanted an offside flag that didn't go up, and it's cleared from the edge of the 6-yard box, high over the crossbar. It's a Crystal Palace corner. Yeah,
his touch was poor, wasn't it? Better touch and he's in. He's onside. He's onside. His touch was poor. Just a heavy touch gets away from him. Allows Schär to get a boot on it and stick it behind for a corner kick.
First corner of the game then. Just over 16 minutes gone. Crystal Palace have it, and it'll be taken by Will Hughes from their left hand side, but he goes short to Sarr with a bit of space across towards the far post, but it's
awful.
And it's very comfortably claimed by Nick Pope.
Yeah, he's been poor, Sarr, this opening period.
Nice little layoff for Eza just there 30 seconds ago, but after that, before that.
Yeah, he's been sloppy.
Gordon manages to get round Will Hughes, who just gets in his way illegally, says the referee Darren England. Wasn't a tug of the shirt, but obstruction, I suppose, more than anything else. Livramento takes the free kick short and quickly, but backwards through Schär and Byrne, and out towards Lewis Hall, who finds Joe Linton on the halfway line, but is dispossessed by a sliding challenge from Munoz. So it's a Newcastle United throw in on the halfway line. Back to Byrne again. Square to Schär on the edge of their own penalty area. A bit of pressing going on from Ebere Eza, but nothing that stopped Newcastle coming out. Livramento has Gordon short for him, inside to Bruno, and then the overlapping run from Livramento again, but it's well spotted by Maxence Lacroix, who comes across and just lets the ball run out of play as well.
Yeah, he covered the ground well, didn't he? He got there quick.
Both sides, I think, and I know they're both sitting relatively deep and inviting the pressure on, but they're closing spaces and they're really squeezing whichever team happens to be in possession at any time.
Yeah, it's interesting when we're without the ball. You see our shape, how good the shape is. You know, you've given Palace no room to go and play in.
Clearance isn't great from Palace though, picked up by Livramento, square to Gordon on this right wing, but then it's dispossessed, and now through the centre circle goes Sarr, gets the wrong side of Isak, but Tonali wins it back. Isak, by the way, back on the pitch and running up to speed again. Lerma on the halfway line, up to Eza, round the corner for Tyreek Mitchell, whose first time ball again, once again,
dear oh dear,
straight into the hands under no pressure of Nick Pope. It's the wrong ball, badly executed.
Yeah, well, he's up there all on his own, Matata. You know, what's he going to do with it?
Pope claimed it comfortably. There's another Newcastle player down. It's Joe Linton on the far side. I think he'll get himself back up again. They've won a throw-in, have Newcastle. It's been another goal at Molineux. Bournemouth now 3-0 up. It's a second penalty for Justin Kluivert. And now Joe Linton has gone down again before a play could restart. It's his left shoulder that he is holding with his right arm. He was dispossessed by Munoz, not even close to being a foul, so I could only assume it's his landing, but in fact he does immediately go down. It's slightly awkward landing, his left arm and hand just kind of slip on the grass as he lands.
Yeah, we could be here a while, couldn't we? Could be some amount of time on it at the end of this half.
It's one of those falls that it doesn't look awful. As soon as you hold your shoulder you think dislocated shoulder, but it didn't look as bad as that. But he's sitting up on the far side, a couple of yards in from the touchline, away on the far side. He's getting some treatment, and this doesn't help the momentum of the game. We've had 3-4 injury stoppages already in the first less than 20 minutes.
Yeah, and you had Willock going down changing his boots as well. Isak's been down a couple of times. Joe Linton's been down twice.
Yeah, some of the home fans getting a bit perturbed by the number of times that Newcastle players are going down, getting a bit of treatment, coming back up and playing on again. Now Isak's gone down inside the centre circle, and that I can understand the Palace fan frustrations here, because Isak waited until Joe Linton was off the pitch and the game was ready to restart, and now sits down again as Eddie Howe beckons someone back. There's a few. It's Harvey Barnes who's been beckoned back here. It's Braintree 2, Gateshead 2. They've only played about 20 minutes there as well, but they've had goals and some play, and it feels like we've had very, very little here. Isak, I need to be substituted now. You're absolutely right. It's Joe Grayson who scored at Gateshead's second goal on his first start since breaking his leg in the first game of the season. Absolutely delighted to see him back playing and scoring as well. But less good news, much worse news for Newcastle United is that they're going to make their first change, and it's going to be Alexander Isak who comes off here. And it presumably all stems from that knock to his hip, Ando, which was, a challenge, but not a foul, and not even a particularly strong challenge.
Yeah, it's just a knock. It's nothing. It was nothing more than that.
I think we could read quite a lot into this substitution. So Harvey Barnes comes on for Alexander Isak.
Gordon's going to play through the middle.
He is, and the reason
Barnes
I think we could
coming to this right hand side.
The reason I think we could read a lot into it is that both Callum Wilson and Willa Sula, as out-and-out strikers, are on the bench.
Yeah, and he doesn't bring either of them.
And Eddie Howe says, I'm going to play not makeshift, because that's a little bit unfair on Anthony Gordon, but a not natural striker through the middle. Replay has restarted. Lewis Hall bursting down the left, but it's well covered, comfortably covered actually. Good sliding challenge.
Covers the ground well, doesn't he? Lacroix. Yeah, he covers the ground well. That's a couple of occasions he's had to get into those wide areas and cover things up.
So yeah, you're absolutely right. That front three is Joe Linton now on the left. Well, still on the left, sorry. Joe Linton on the left, Harvey Barnes on the right, and Anthony Gordon through the middle as Brentford take the lead against Leicester. Leicester take the lead at Brentford. Facundo Buonanotte after 20 minutes. Brentford 0, Leicester 1. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 0. Exactly midway through the first half. Doesn't feel like we've played. Well, we haven't played 22.5 minutes. The clock is on 22.5 minutes. Joe Linton down the left, tries to cut inside, comes off the heel of a Crystal Palace defender, and Munoz has now gone down inside the box as well.
Yeah, Joe Linton caught him, didn't he?
And the right wing back has gone down fairly dramatically inside his own penalty area. The referee has stopped the game, so I'm assuming the referee was playing advantage and then decided there was no advantage. And we're just going to see a replay of this, and yes, Joe Linton is late. He's just caught him with his toe. He's not gone through him, but he's caught him with his toe. Munoz is back up on his feet again and is absolutely fine. And it'll be it will be a free kick to Crystal Palace.
Yeah, it's been stop-start, hasn't it?
On the edge of their own penalty area.
Very stop-start. And you can tell by the lack of noise in here, can't you?
Yeah. There's been... You said it after about 10 minutes, and we can say it after 24. There's no pattern. absolutely no pattern to this game. The long ball from Dean Henderson goes from one goalkeeper to another and just bobbles through to Nick Pope in his sky blue kit away to our left hand side. Throws it out to Lewis Hall at left back, but is closed down by Ismaila Sarr. Goes inside to Tonali, back to Joe Linton, then finds Bruno with a bit of space on the edge of the centre circle. Then Livramento over the halfway line. Harvey Barnes will get his first touch down the right wing for Newcastle and into the penalty area as well. Cross is a good one, it's fired behind Anthony Gordon. It's actually going to be picked up by Lewis Hall away on the far side. That's how firmly it was struck, but Gordon was just too advanced for that pass. But Barnes' first contribution, a very positive one. Newcastle still in possession, back out on this right hand side again. Livramento right down in front of us, and back to Fabian Schär inside his own half. Decent move that from Newcastle.
We'll come back
again,
to it.
It is given away, and Crystal Palace give it straight back to him as well. You can hear the noise from the crowd. Bruno under a bit of pressure from Will Hughes inside the centre circle, but again comes out to Livramento. We'll come back to that cross from Barnes. In fact, let's do it now because Newcastle have got the ball back at the feet of Nick Pope. Good run from Harvey Barnes, good cross, just not the right cross.
Yeah, I mean he's just drilled one across, didn't he? Just hoping somebody was coming in on it, but too much pace on it, but we kept it alive.
25 minutes gone, no real chances for either side. As Joe Willock bursts down the left wing, cannot quite keep it in play. As all the Palace players look across to the assistant and Adrian Holmes on this near side, hopeful for an offside flag. It really doesn't matter as the ball has gone out for a goal kick. 25 minutes gone, but I think we're already at the stage of probably having 4 or 5 minutes of injury time.
Probably a little bit more than that, Colin, to be quite honest.
At the end of this first half. Now, Dean Henderson has just dropped the ball, so he's not going to take the goal kick. It's Mark Gahey who will take it, which means that Newcastle can go and press quite high. Brentford equalise at home to Leicester. Brentford 1, Leicester 1. Mateta wins the header against Dan Burn on the halfway line, but it just trickles out to Livramento at right back here for Newcastle. Back to Fabian Schär again, and it's not been the most entertaining 26 minutes of Premier League football this season, has it, John Anderson?
No, it hasn't been great. Both sides haven't really been able to keep it. That's better. It
is. Gordon then square to Willock, just over at the halfway line, out to Joe Linton on the far side, up towards the penalty area, square on his right foot to Lewis Hall. It's 20 yards out now, Newcastle, rather crowded out a bit. Mateta knocks Tonali off the ball, and now Crystal Palace will try and break here. Through the centre circle goes Ismaila Sarr, lays it off for Eza, gives Gordon the chance to nick it off his toes. There's a Crystal Palace throw-in on this near side, but it's a waste.
Sarr again, no urgency about it. He picks it up and he's just strolling, and then he plays an awful ball to Eze.
And Crystal Palace, who had a chance if they'd gone hell for leather on that to be 4v4, didn't take that chance, and they've got possession midway inside their own half again. Will Hughes comes and picks it up from the defenders, gives it back to Chalobah under a bit of pressure from Willock. It's hit back fairly firmly towards Dean Henderson, but in his luminous yellow, knocks it long. Header one on the halfway line, unchallenged by Lewis Hall, but Will Hughes picks the second ball up. Back to Lacroix at the heart of that Crystal Palace defence, and then Gahey with a bit of space and time to carry it up towards the halfway line. Then through the lines to Eze, but his first touch is too heavy. Tonali intercepts, then finds Bruno, and now Harvey Barnes on this right hand side. Didn't start the game, came on for Isak. Harvey Barnes after just over 20 minutes. Bruno is challenged for the ball by Lacroix on this near side. He wants a foul, referee says absolutely not.
No.
And Palace can just play it between themselves in their own half again. Bruno back up on his feet, back in position. Tyreek Mitchell on the left hand side for Crystal Palace gets it on the halfway line, then turns back again. Gordon trying to lead the Newcastle charge. He's got Willock up there with him. Ball back at the feet of the Palace goalkeeper, under a bit of pressure from Gordon, and then Gahey pressurised by Barnes as well, out to Mitchell on this near side. Ball forward is flicked on by Eze up towards Mateta, who's doing battle, and then is fouled by Dan Burn. Referee says he's not fouled, and he says it was in both. It basically makes a symbol, a signal.
You know what it is,
because
he didn't know which way to get the free kick.
I thought they were both holding each other, and then I must admit I thought Dan Burn had caught Mateta's heels, but referee says no. So Newcastle back in possession inside their own half. Lewis Hall, Joe Linton comes and gets it under pressure. tries to get it back from Hall, but the ball forward isn't good enough. Tonali intercepts though again. It's all very scrappy either side of the halfway line here. It breaks the way of Eza inside the centre circle. He's got Mateta in front of him. Got Tyreek Mitchell wide on the left if he wants. He dribbles past Guimaraes instead. Hasn't really made much progress though yet, Eza. Probably 30-35 yards out from goal, but he goes square to Trevor Chalobah. He might fancy an effort here. He does! It's a foot or two over the crossbar, but it's the closest we've come. It's the first effort on goal that I can remember, Ando, after nearly half an hour.
At least there's a strike on goal. He's a long way out. Would have been some strike to score from there, mine.
But he had the space to move into.
Yeah, he did, but he's best part of 35 yards. Ball's always rising. It's never really troubling the keeper, but as you say, at least it's a strike on target.
As you were talking there, I'm thinking, have I missed something? That is the first effort on goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
after half an hour.
Yeah.
A couple of crosses, obviously, but first effort on goal. 29 and a half minutes played at Selhurst.
There hasn't been much to talk about, to be quite honest.
Lerma spreads it from left to right. Munoz, the Brazilian, can't dispossess him. Mateta gets it back, edge of the penalty area. Sarr out wide from Munoz, his crosses back to Sarr again. He pokes it, great save from Nick Pope with his feet. And the offside flag's gone up anyway. Ooh. Whether the offside came before or after the save, I don't know. Nick Pope certainly didn't know. Sarr, who you've criticised quite rightly in this game so far, very nearly open to scoring.
Yeah, it's a good break, isn't it? They worked it well. Got it out wide, cross played in. It's a toe poke, isn't it? He just toe pokes it.
Cross from
Not
Munoz.
Too sure who's offside.
I think if Mateta had got to a rebound, he might have been offside. But it's one of those, and I know there was a controversial one last night in the Premier League in terms of being interfering with the goalkeeper and being in line of sight, etc. But we didn't have to worry about that. Nick Pope kept it out, and then the offside flag went up, and Newcastle now go down the other end. Harvey Barnes gets the ricochet off Joe Willock. A couple of step overs. Barnes level with the edge of the penalty area in the right hand corner. Finds Livramento. Willock tries to get it through Tyreek Mitchell's legs. He does, and draws the foul in the process. And this is a Newcastle free kick.
Sloppy by Mitchell, wasn't it?
It was indeed, and this is the most dangerous area, set piece area, that Newcastle have been in so far. Brentford have come from behind, by the way, and lead Leicester by 2-1. Kevin Schade has just put them in front. Bournemouth still 3-1 up at Wolves. But this free kick is maybe 2 yards outside the penalty area, outside the right hand corner of the penalty area. So the two-man wall is being lined up well inside the box. Gordon and Hall standing over it, but it's tailor-made for a left footer here. Gordon takes a few steps back, but Lewis Hall has got the perfect angle to try and deliver this towards the edge of the 6-yard box. 31 minutes gone at Selhurst Park. Gordon runs towards the ball, leaves it for Hall towards the far post. Bruno rises highest, it comes off his head, and it's a Crystal Palace goal kick.
He sort of ducked under it, didn't he?
It wasn't above the ball.
It was a turtle type header where he tucked his head into his shoulders, didn't really go and attack it. Anything probably came off his shoulder and went wide.
It would have been a good defensive header in that he'd got the ball, he got his head on the ball and put the opponent off, but was not in a position to get it on target. And Dean Henderson will take the goal kick long. Up through the middle, Hall wins the header on the halfway line. Willock wins the second one above Will Hughes. And Newcastle keep possession inside their own half. Hall along the ground. Willock flicks it on to nobody in particular. And I don't know who he thought was there, but there wasn't a teammate anywhere near him. But he's done well to win the ball back, though, has Willock, in fairness. Square to Bruno, now through Tonali. Bruno gets it back again, just edge of the centre circle. He's going to avoid a couple of different Crystal Palace players and is forced to turn back again. Scher over the halfway line. Tonali lays it off. Livramento gets there. Tonali can't get back the ball from Livramento's layoff, though, and it's cut out. And Newcastle have a throw a couple of yards inside the Crystal Palace half. 33 minutes gone. I would say 12 minutes until half time, but it'll be more than that. We've had injury stoppages. But Newcastle have just perked up a little bit in the last minute or two. Joe Linton wide on the left, has got Hall as an overlap if he wants him. Comes back to Bruno instead. Every single outfield player is within about 40 yards of the Crystal Palace goal at the moment. Harvey Barnes comes and collects it from Sher. He gives it back to Byrne inside the centre circle under pressure from Sarr. Goes back to Sher. Square along the halfway line to Hall, then finds Gordon. Now Joe Linton up towards the edge of the penalty area, tries to get Willock in behind. He's just eased off it by Lacroix, and it came off Joe Willock's toe, I think. The referee and assistant can't decide. It's a corner in the end. Neither of them had a clue.
Didn't have a clue.
And it's been given as a Newcastle United corner, and it's their first of the game. And we've got the benefit of a replay, and in fairness, it is the right decision. It does come off the toe of the French
but they didn't have a clue.
They didn't know that.
Didn't have the foggiest.
So Anthony Gordon's got the ball in his hands. He's going to take the corner from the far side. Willock goes and offers him an option short if he wants, but Palace have got every player inside their own penalty area here. Tonali and Bruno inside the 6-yard box.
Oh God.
The referee, Darren England, is just going to go and make sure that the ball is at least very slightly inside. He's going to have a word with Anthony Gordon as well. I think he is initially just checking that the ball is inside the arc. It's moved.
Honestly. It's moved what?
Fractions. I mean, we are talking fractions, and
a centimetre.
That will make no difference to the way that this corner is delivered. But I know it's the referee's job, I suppose, isn't it? Darren England is now satisfied, blows the whistle. Anthony Gordon will take the corner, the right-footed in-swinger from the far side towards the 6-yard box, up in the air. Good header, actually, by Tyreek Mitchell. Hall is then knocked off it by Lerma on the edge of the box. Palace might fancy a break here through the middle. Eza flicked over, and then Hughes over the top, and Ismail Assar is in behind here for Crystal Palace. It's 3-on-2. Ismail Assar square, and it's missed by Munoz. Somehow Daniel Munoz on his weaker left foot has missed from inside the 6-yard box. There were 3 in the counter-attack. Sarr on the right got 10 yards from goal. His square pass was in front of Mateta, and Munoz, the right wing back, with his left foot has completely sliced it wide.
I don't care how poor your non-kicking foot is, you've got to score that. You have got to score that. That is absolutely awful.
And he knows as soon as it leaves his foot. And he is running at speed, and he could not sort his feet out. But Newcastle get let off the hook, very much let off the hook, because that came, John Anderson,
from our corner.
Newcastle United corner.
Yeah.
Well, at least it's livened up a little bit in the last few minutes. 36 minutes played here at Selhurst Park, still goalless. And a first half punctuated by injury stoppages, all actually Newcastle United injury stoppages. Only one of which resulted in a substitution. Alexander Isak left us after just over 20 minutes, replaced by Harvey Barnes. And if the game doesn't provide many more talking points, which we hope it will, then that will be one. Isak going off injured at the start of a week in which Newcastle play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday. But that can be for the post-match phone-in. Ando will be here as always. Dominic James presenting that phone-in this afternoon. You can give Ando a call from 5 o'clock. 0800 234 6565, the number, the same as the Total Sport number through the week. 0800 234 6565, and have a chat with Ando about whatever it is that will transpire in the next hour and a quarter or so. Newcastle with Anthony Gordon ostensibly playing up front, but he's got the ball inside his own half at the moment. Joe Linton's just occupying that furthest forward space for the moment, back with Sher on the halfway line. He's got a block of players in front of him. He wanted a bit more movement. There came none, so he's gone back to his goalkeeper. And Newcastle start again down the left. Lewis Hall, Willock tries to get himself round Daniel Munoz. He sort of does, but then it's intercepted by Sarr and Munoz between them. And then it's a Crystal Palace throw-in midway inside their own half. And Munoz is back in his more natural position of right wing back. Given away badly by Palace. Bruno tries to send Gordon through the middle, but it's cut out by Lacroix. Wasn't the greatest ball over the top from Bruno anyway, and fairly comfortably cut out, and Newcastle give it away again. So Palace through the centre circle, through Jefferson Lerma, the Colombian, out towards Tyreek Mitchell on this left hand side. Decide they can't go anywhere forwards at least, and it's back on the edge of their own penalty area. Will Hughes under a little bit of pressure from Tonali and Gordon, has to just jink between the two of them. He's done well. Up towards Mateta, who tries to lay it off, but it comes off his standing foot, and then off Dan Byrne as well. So it's a Palace throw-in just inside the Newcastle half, down the right wing. Munoz wanted to take it quickly, goes inside to Sarr instead, who's goal side of Bruno Guimaraes, who brings him down. And that is just a lack of anticipation from the Newcastle midfield. They didn't track
It's a lack
Sarr's
of pace.
run. Is it? Even over a 5? Because that's only a 5-yard stretch.
It's a lack of pace. They started level with each other, and he couldn't stay with him.
And Bruno clipped his heels, and that's a Crystal Palace free kick. 2 Newcastle players are close on 4 yellow cards, 1 away from a suspension. Cher and Joe Linton. Bruno on 3, but he didn't get one for that incident. But this is a free kick for Crystal Palace, maybe 6-7 yards outside the penalty area, but quite far right of centre. Will Hughes and de Berriese stand over it. And the wall is lined up by Darren England. It's just Willock and Gordon in that wall. But then a line of players across the 18-yard box. It's either going to be Will Hughes' left foot or Berriese's right foot. Tries to take it quickly, he does, has it over the top. And the header from the edge of the 6-yard box, given that has gone out for a goal kick, and with apologies for there being a stanchion in the pillar in the way, I think that's an opportunity for Crystal Palace here. It is. And it's Lacroix who was up from the back. We'll come back to that because Newcastle down the other end. Harvey Barnes on the right hand side, only had Gordon to aim for in the middle, so he cuts back inside. Bruno back to Barnes again. His cross is cut out by the diving Dean Henderson fairly comfortably in the end.
Yeah, it's a pro ball. Got in behind down this right side. Wasn't an awful lot of white shorts in there, to be quite honest. There's only Gordon in there.
Yeah, that is who he was aiming for, but the goalkeeper and several defenders between the ball and Gordon, and Dean Henderson able to flop on it comfortably. Under pressure from Gordon with the ball at his feet. Henderson puts Gahey under a bit of pressure as well down by the byline, but he knocks it clear. Cher's header doesn't find a teammate. Ez's flick on has forced himself all the way back to the edge of his own penalty area, but he has kept possession for Palace. Dan Burn just pushes Ismaila Sarr in the back. The referee says there's nothing wrong with that. And the ball is back at the feet of Nick Pope after all that, under pressure from a slightly aggrieved Ismaila Sarr, who went charging towards him, but the ball forward from Pope. He's put Henderson in a foot race to keep the ball in play. He does, but he puts it out for throw-in on the far side. So they're very scrappy. 4 minutes to go.
Yeah, he's very casual 45. At times, Eze, isn't he?
And Newcastle have a throw-in on their left wing that Lewis Hall takes, but goes all the way back to Byrne inside his own half. A pass was meant for Fabian Cher, and the fact that it ended up at Nick Pope's feet tells you how inaccurate it was, but he gives it back to the Swiss defender, who now carries it up towards the halfway line, goes long, but it's between Willock and Joe Linton, so it's cut out comfortably by Palace, by Munoz, who give it away though. Guimaraes wins it for Newcastle, 30 yards out, pokes right towards Gordon, who then finds Barnes on this right wing as well. Got 3 to aim for in the box here, does Harvey Barnes. It's towards the far post, it's over the top of everybody. Munoz decides he needs to get something on it though, and heads it out for a corner.
Sarr again loses it. He's just been as weak.
And Newcastle United have another corner. It's their second of the game. Now the first one did lead to a chance, but it was a Crystal Palace chance. So we'll see how this one goes. Again, it's Anthony Gordon who goes across to take it from the far side. And once again, Crystal Palace have everybody inside their own penalty area. The referee doesn't feel the need to go and check whether this is inside the arc this time. So Gordon's free to take this corner. Raises his left hand. Swung in deep high towards the far post. Joe Linton rises highest. His header really goes nowhere, but he does well to get it back to Lewis Hall, edge of the box, up towards the penalty spot. Headed clear once again. It was a bit flat, wasn't it, by Crystal Palace. Livramento, the deepest man for Newcastle United, picks it up and then drives forward. And then Willock will go up towards the byline and will win yet another corner, because it was just poked off his toes by Munoz once again. But the first 2 deliveries haven't really led to anything from corner kicks. That one was just a bit floaty. It was just
hung, wasn't it? It was a floaty one, back post.
But again, it's from the same side, from the left for Newcastle United. So Anthony Gordon will take this one again. Plenty to aim for. Goes short to Willock this time, but gets it back, so he's got a better angle for a cross. Again, it's deep, high towards the back post. Cher, free header across the face of goal, headed up in the air by Palace, and Hughes then clears it from the edge of his own 6-yard box. The offside flag has gone up as well, and it's all come to naught.
After all that, the flag went up.
Yeah, it worked, that routine on the far side, in the sense that it got Gordon a better angle for the cross, and it came in towards Fabian Schär, who wasn't the one who was offside. I'm really not sure why that offside flag has gone up.
Well, Dan Bourne backed into the defender, didn't he? So does that mean he's interfering with play?
He's nowhere near the ball, but we know that's not necessarily the criteria. But anyway, it's a free kick for Crystal Palace inside their own penalty area. A towering header from Dan Burn that flattens his own teammate as well as Jean-Philippe Mateta, and there's a bit of concern here for a Newcastle player. It's Joe Linton who actually has got himself back up again. Now, he did take a knock to the head, and the referee decided that it was the referee's call to bring the medical staff on quickly. Joe Linton then sat back up, tried to stand up, and has been told by the referee to sit back down again while he gets a little bit of treatment, albeit he's back up on his feet again. And with a minute left of the 45, he took a flattering in the back of the head from Dan Burn's hip.
Oh dear.
Dan Burn has to jump quite high to hit you on the head with his hip, and that is what he did. But Joe Linton is up and okay and walking off the pitch on the far side again. We'll find out in about 40 seconds how long this first half is going to last. But yeah, we're probably up at around about 5-6 minutes mark here. We will see very shortly. Palace have the ball back again. Still goalless here at Selhurst Park. Live on BBC Radio Newcastle and on BBC Sounds. Gahey to Lerma out on the left. Back to Gahey again. Newcastle with everyone behind the ball. Joe Linton still not being allowed back on the pitch on the far side. You have to give it 30 seconds, don't you? And I think that foul on Livramento will probably be the stoppage it is that lets Joe Linton come back on the far side. And the fourth official, Andy Davis, is about to put that board up and tell us the minimum amount of injury time we will have at the end of the opening 45. And the answer is 5. So 5 minutes to go in this first half. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 0, and Crystal Palace with the far better of the opportunities. But it has not been a classic half of Premier League football. Newcastle have got the ball through Tonali, trying to inject a bit of urgency into the final 5 minutes of this half. Joe Willock comes and collects it as well. Byrne in the middle of his own half, square to Schär. Under no real pressure from Crystal Palace here, so he can just sort of amble forward with the ball. He's now stopped completely, but does find Willock in space on the halfway line, left of centre. He's got Joe Linton and Hall out there with him if he wants. Cuts back in on his right foot, goes square to Bruno, 40 yards out here for Newcastle, and then out to Livramento and Barnes wide on the right, but it's overhit from Livramento and it's straight out to play, and it sort of sums that first half up.
There's not a great deal you can say about that, is it? Was it? It's not even a 5-yard ball, is it?
And it was played 2 yards in front of Harvey Barnes, but struck with a pace that meant he wasn't going to be able to stretch to keep it in play, and Crystal Palace have a throw in level with the edge of their own penalty area. Tyreek Mitchell to Hughes, who knocks it up towards Eza, who flicked it over the top of Livramento and then tries to send Mateta in behind. It's good positioning from Nick Pope, who comes out and knocks it straight out for a throw in on this near side. It's part of what goalkeepers have to do now, that, isn't it?
Yeah, and you'd say that's not the strongest part of his game. Ball at his feet.
Crystal Palace have the ball back at the feet of the other goalkeeper now, Dean Henderson, England international. Will Hughes picks up the second ball on the halfway line and then square to Mark Gahey. Finds Eza in a little bit of space with his back to goal, 30 yards out on the left hand side. He's got Mitchell in the overlap, the cross is deflected, it's going to be a Crystal Palace corner, because Livramento made sure that ball didn't get into the penalty area. But again, just Eza picking it up in a little pocket of space.
Yeah, they need to get him involved in the game more, don't they?
2 minutes of the minimum 5 played at the end of the first half. It's a Crystal Palace corner that the aforementioned Ebere Eze will take. He's got Sarr short if he wants him. Newcastle aren't covering that, but it doesn't matter. Eze takes it towards the penalty. But it's
corner.
It is. It's a corner on the far side. Every single Newcastle player not happy with the decision, because they thought it would come off a Palace head, but it came off Joe Linton's head. Well, you and I have just watched the replay and come to different conclusions. I think that came off the back of Joe Linton's head, but what we think doesn't necessarily matter.
Well, it's a corner kick anyway.
It is a corner kick, and it's going to be taken by Will Hughes. So it'll be a left-footed in-swinger on the far side, as we duck down to try and watch this under the top of the roof of the stand. Newcastle with everyone inside the penalty area. The corner comes in from Hughes, bounces on the edge of the 6-yard box. Every single player missed it, and it's straight out for a goal kick. It's not a bad delivery.
It's a great delivery.
Literally everyone misses it.
I suppose that sums up this half, doesn't it? It's a great ball. Nobody attacks it.
No,
it's into a great area.
No Newcastle player attacked it. Lacroix tried to and missed it. That's just a few, and obviously we know that's how West Ham's first goal came on Monday night as well. Just a little bit of static defending from Newcastle, from corners, from set pieces. 90 seconds left of the first half. Nick Pope goes long, it bobbles about on the halfway line, but Joe Linton wins it, gives it back to Lewis Hall, but he's forced to run backwards under pressure from Sarr. And then through Dan Byrne, gets to Nick Pope. Square to Scher, but inside his own penalty area, tries to find Barnes. It's intercepted by Mark Gahey. It's out for a Newcastle throw-in, but at times both sides have put a bit of a press on and put a bit of pressure on the opposition defence, but they're doing it infrequently, and it's not really led to anything. Palace giving the ball away a little bit, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it hasn't been.
Barnes miscontrols it and it's out for a Palace throw-in.
Yeah, just as we say that. It's been that type of game, hasn't it? You know, I think both managers will want to get their teams in at half-time because it's been poor. It's been poor from both sides, to be fair.
Yeah, Palace have had the bigger of the chances. We'll wrap up.
Oh, the one clear-cut chance was...
Well, two, I think. One that was missed and one that was saved by the feet of Nick Pope. We'll wrap up the first half once we get to the end of it, which is... No. That is the half-time whistle. Darren England deciding that is it for the first half of football here at Selhurst Park. It is Newcastle United drawing 0-0 with Crystal Palace at the break. John Anderson. Newcastle haven't really had a chance. The biggest thing to talk about from their point of view is Alexander Isak going off injured after just over 20 minutes. Not replaced by Callum Wilson, not replaced by Willa Sulla, but replaced by Harvey Barnes, which means that Anthony Gordon is now the furthest man forward. But the two best chances came in the space of a couple of minutes, actually, for Crystal Palace after just over half an hour. The ball poked towards goal by Ismaila Sarr. It was a very good save with his feet by Nick Pope. And then a couple of minutes later, a Newcastle United corner that turned into a great Crystal Palace break. Sarr again involved, squared it across the 6-yard box, and Daniel Munoz up from right wing back swung his left foot at it and sliced it horribly. We've had one good save, we've had one really bad miss from Crystal Palace, nothing really from Newcastle in terms of threatening Dean Henderson's goal, and that's about it.
That's been poor. I mean, you know, you go on about chances. We haven't created any chances at all today. They've had the Munoz chance is unbelievable. I don't care how bad your left foot is, you've got to score. Simple as that. And it came from our corner as well. Yeah. It's been so slow, it's been so pedestrian. There's been no pace to the game whatsoever. I'm sure Eddie Howe will get them in there at half-time and say, look, we need to do things an awful lot quicker, we need to be sharper in what we do. You know, but it's just been a poor half of football. Yeah,
we said beforehand this might be either brilliant or dreadful. It's definitely closer to one than the other at the moment. Alexander Isak's gone off injured. Harvey Barnes replacing him. Firstly, on the loss of Isak.
It didn't look like a muscle injury. It looked like a knock. So, which is a good thing. You would think that if it's only a knock, it won't take that long. But he had another knock earlier on as well. And he went down. Substitution was interesting. You know, he's got two centre forwards on the bench and he doesn't bring either of them on. He brings a wide player on and he puts Gordon through the middle. So yeah, you wonder the thinking in that as well, don't you, really?
Yeah, and if Newcastle United don't go on to win this game, then that is a question. That might be one of the first questions that is asked of Eddie Howe afterwards. But it is goalless at half-time. We will be back here for full commentary of the second half very shortly. I'm not sure the second half can be any worse than the first. Half-time at Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 0.
On Radio 4, the more you listen, the more you see.
Hello, I'm Andrew Hunter-Murray, host of The Naked Week, a brand new comedy where you'll probably find this kind of thing.
Nigel Farage got into a punch-up with a womble.
On the moon?
Don't be ridiculous, Duncan, there are no wombles on the moon.
and this sort of thing.
ULEZ. It's made Sadiq Khan London's most unpopular mayor since Dick Whittington charged his cat 12 quid to enter its own litter tray.
So join me as we go behind the headlines with unexpected guests and much satirical silliness. The Naked Week. Listen on Radio 4 and BBC Sounds.
Total Sport North East.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Dominic James back in the BBC Radio Newcastle studio. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 0. Alexander Isak off injured for Newcastle United. Harvey Barnes replacing him. Will be back to Selhurst Park shortly for second half commentary with Colin White and John Anderson. Elsewhere in the Premier League this afternoon, Brentford are beating Crystal Palace 3-1 there. Nottingham Forest and Ipswich is goalless, but Bournemouth, they are leading Wolves by 3-1 there. And the late game in the Premier League today is West Ham versus Arsenal. That one gets underway at 5:30.
Total Sport North East.
On the station with Newcastle and Sunderland commentary exclusively live.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Into the Championship, there was 4 early games this afternoon. Middlesbrough, they beat Hull 3-1. Oxford and Millwall played out a 1-1 draw. It finished goalless between Watford and QPR. Blackburn Rovers have done Sunderland a favour this afternoon. They have beaten Leeds United by 1-0 into the 3 o'clocks, and it's goalless between Bristol City and Plymouth. Coventry and Cardiff as ones each. Norwich City lead Luton Town by 2-1. West Brom lead at Deepdale against Preston by 1-0 there. Stoke and Burnley are goalless, and the only other game in the Championship today is Portsmouth against Swansea. Portsmouth leading by 2-1. Matt Ritchie, the former Newcastle United winger and brother of Jacob Murphy, Josh, also on the score sheet for Portsmouth this afternoon.
Total Sport North East.
The Newcastle and Sunderland AFC podcast
On BBC Sounds.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
We're into FA Cup action now. It's the second round, and in the early game today, Wickham beat Wilton by 2-0 into the 3 o'clocks, and it's Accrington 1, Swindon 1, Barnsley 0, Bristol Rovers 0, Cambridge United 0, Wigan 0. Crawley, managed by Rob Elliott, the former Newcastle United goalkeeper and ex-Gateshead manager. It's 2-2 between them and Lincoln. Exeter lead by 1-0 against Chesterfield. It's Leyton Orient 0, Oldham 0, Morecambe 0, Bradford 0. Peterborough 1, Notts County 2, Salford City lead 2-0 over Cheltenham. It's goalless between Stevenage and Mansfield. Stockport lead 2-0 over Brackley. Charlton are away to Walsall lead 2-0. And the late game in the FA Cup today is Wimbledon against Dagenham and Redbridge. That one kicks off at 7:15. And 2 games in League 2 this afternoon. Carlisle United, managed by Mike Williams and the former Newcastle defender, are against Crewe, and it's that one was early on this afternoon, and that one finished 1 each. Also today was Fleetwood against Colchester. That one finished goalless.
Total Sport North East.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Non-league wise, it's a big weekend for some of our non-league sides for different reasons. We begin in the National League, where Gateshead, they are 2-2 away to Braintree at half time. Joe Grayson and Owen Aseni with the goals for Gateshead. Our featured game, though, comes in the Northern Premier League Premier Division. Blythe Spartans, they are in action against Hyde United. Our non-league reporter Paul Dixon is there and can tell us what the score at half time.
Dom, the score at half time is Blythe Spartans 0, Hyde United 0, but Blythe are really up against it, and when you've been dealt a bad hand, they really have this afternoon. They went down to 10 men on 19 minutes when on loan from Gateshead Connor Panny give the ball away, and then it was a last ditch tackle on the edge of the box. Referee, no hesitation, give Panny a red card straight away, and Blythe were down to 10 men. And then on 25 minutes, the visitors should have gone ahead. Centre forward Ewan Barnes, 6 yards out, missed his kick completely and should have scored. And then Blythe goalkeeper Richardson made a brilliant full length save from a shot from substitute Matthew Farley. Real good save it was. And then a minute later, Heads captain Jack Redshaw hit a superb 25-yard shot which cannoned off the underside of the crossbar. Great effort. And then right on half-time, centre forward Ewan Barnes, who is 6'5", by the way, should have really put Hyde ahead. 8 yards out, all the goal to hit. His shot was saved by Richardson. It was a good save, but the centre forward should have really finished it. Half-time, it's nils each. Blythe are down to 10 men, but it's all Hyde United.
Paul, thank you very much. Paul will be with us at full time as well as on our non-league roundup. Elsewhere in the NPL Premier this afternoon, Morpeth Town are losing 3-1 to Matlock at the break. In Heaven Town, they are away to Ilkeston this afternoon. A win would keep them in the playoff places, but it is goalless at half time. In the National League North this afternoon, South Shields, they are leading Peterborough Sports by 2-1 to going well at the First Cloud Arena for South Shields and Elliot Dickman. In the Northern Premier League East Division this afternoon, Ashington, they are 2-0 down to Liversedge. Heatonstown are away to Bishop Auckland. They are losing 2-0 as well. Dunstan are goalless away to Garforth, and Concert are away to Grimsby Borough, although that one was late kicking off this afternoon. The referee picking up an injury in the warm-up, and so that one was delayed by around half an hour. Of course, we'll round all of these up in our local football roundup later on, and we'll also do it at full time as well.
Matt Bailey at breakfast.
Hey, Matt.
Hello, P. How are you doing?
I'm about to go for a run and we'll all meet on the Derwent in the car park. And then I'm surrounded by cars waiting for us.
Turn BBC Newcastle on.
Radio Newcastle. Matt Bailey at breakfast.
We're now live in the Derwent car park.
Give us a honk.
Tell them to beat their horns.
Yeah. Woo! Matt Bailey at breakfast.
Live in the car park this morning. Yeah, boy.
Derwent massive.
The Derwent.
Matt Bailey at breakfast.
Just ask your smart speaker to play BBC Radio Newcastle.
Dominic James back in the BBC Radio Newcastle studio at half-time. Then it's Newcastle United 0, Crystal Palace 0 at Selhurst Park. Elsewhere, the only other non-league game I didn't tell you about there was Berwick Rangers. They are taking on Heartsby this afternoon, but are 2-0 down at the break. A few other things to bring you then. And last night in the Championship, Sunderland's 10-game unbeaten run was brought to an end at Bramall Lane. They were beaten 1-0 by Sheffield United. Tom Davies netting in the 83rd minute for the Blades. The Black Cats head coach Regis Lebris says it wasn't a fair reflection on his side's performance.
We are frustrated at the end of that game because I think we demonstrated a good level, and especially here away against a strong team, one of the strongest team of the league, and we defended well. I think we struggled for 10 minutes, 12 minutes just to find the right references, and after it was perfect. And in possession, gradually we controlled the game, and we were dominant. We created chances. That penalty, we didn't score, and this is my main concern at the minute, because to be so dominant on the pitch, especially away against that kind of team, and you don't win any points at the end, it's really frustrating, and I hope we'll keep that mindset, because we have a good level, but we have to find some details to change the dynamic, because it's not enough at the minute.
That is the Sunderland head coach Regis Lebris speaking after last night's defeat to Sheffield United. The full interview with Nick Barnes is available to listen to on BBC Sounds. A few other things to tell you about in rugby union last night. The Newcastle Falcons beat Saracens 17 points to 12 at Kingston Park. It's their second Premiership win of this season. It's the first time they've actually beat them since 2009 as well. So a great result for them last night. Basketball and the Newcastle Eagles, they beat the Cheshire Phoenix 94 points to 88 last night. In the Women's Super League today, the Durham Palatinates suffering a heavy defeat at home to the Sheffield Hatters. Sheffield ring out 101 points to 52 winners. Their horse racing and the Fighting Fifth today. Sir Gino was the winner in that meeting this afternoon for Nicky Henderson, so he was the winner for that. A few other things to bring you locally. Boxing tonight, in Lewis Ritson is in action in Birmingham. He takes on Connor Walker from Wolverhampton. Cameron Vong from Blythe, he's against Gavin Gwen. And Greg O'Neill from Sunderland takes on Tyler Bowen. It's his debut as well. And just finally in cricket, England are heading towards victory in the first test against New Zealand after dominating day 3 in Christchurch earlier this morning. The tourists were bowled out for 499, batsman Harry Brook making 171 runs, captain Ben Stokes with 80 and Gus Atkinson with a valuable 48. England then reduced New Zealand to 155 for 6 at the close of play, and so they lead by just 4 runs. And the women are in action as well today in the cricket. They take on South Africa in Centurion. That one is just about to get underway. And in Formula 1, Oscar Piastri won the sprint race in Qatar earlier. But it's time for us to head back to Selhurst Park for second half commentary at Crystal Palace against Newcastle United, and we rejoin our commentary team of Colin White and John Anderson.
Total Sport North East.
Colin White and black and white legend John Anderson.
BBC Radio Newcastle.
Thank you very much, Dominic, and it's beautifully timed because Newcastle United are making their way back out onto the pitch from the tunnel in the corner of Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace, the home side, yet to emerge, but it won't be long because the referee Darren England is out as well. No Newcastle United changes as it looks at half time. They did make that change midway through the first half, though enforced when Alexander Isak went off injured after a collision. He did try to play on but couldn't play on for very long, so he was replaced by Harvey Barnes. It means that Newcastle with Pope in goals, Livramento, Scher, Byrne and Hall as the back 4, Tonali, Guimaraes and Willock as the midfield 3, but the front 3 has changed. So Joelinton is still on the left wing, but Harvey Barnes now on the right wing, and Anthony Gordon, who had previously started on the right wing, is through the middle. And the substitutes therefore remaining for Newcastle United: Martin de Braika, the goalkeeper, and then Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson, who we wondered whether he might be the one to replace Isak, but he wasn't. Trippier, Wilson, Will Osula, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron, Lloyd Kelly and Sean Longstaff. Crystal Palace with Dean Henderson in goal, the back 3 of Mark Gahey, Maxence Lacroix and Trevor Chalobah. Daniel Munoz, after that dreadful miss in the first half, is the right wing back, Tyreek Mitchell on the left, Will Hughes and Jefferson Lerma in the middle, with Avera Eze and Ismail Assar supporting Jean-Philippe Mateta up front for Crystal Palace. Matt Turner's their substitute goalkeeper, Joel Ward, Eddie Nketiah, Jeffrey Schlupp, Nathaniel Clyde, Chris Richards, Sheikh Doucouré, Justin Devaney and Caleb Capel. Newcastle United get the second half underway at Selhurst Park, live on BBC Radio Newcastle and on BBC Sounds this afternoon as well. If you are having to be out and about in the second half, you can take us with you on the BBC Sounds app, or if you're having to move from room to room in the house, you can take us through your smart speakers as well. Just ask your smart speaker to play BBC Newcastle and you will find us there. Crystal Palace have got the ball up towards the edge of the Newcastle United penalty box, but Dan Burn just eases Mateta off it and Nick Pope can go long. Crystal Palace playing from left to right in their stripes as we look at it, with blue shorts and blue socks. Newcastle United all in white from right to left, and now attacking John Anderson, the goal that we can't really see.
You just hope that one or two have had a flea in their ear at half time, and that the second half is the tempo is upped, because we played with no tempo, no pace whatsoever in that first half.
I was going to ask you whether you thought that would have been Eddie Howe's attitude to the half-time break. I mean, it is occasionally in his nature to have a go, and you want a manager who you know has got that in him but doesn't do it all the time. We will see what effect that has. We've played a minute and a half of the second half, and Fabian Schär's got the ball on the halfway line because Palace have given it away. And down the right-hand side was Barnes, inside to Tonali, but Eze wins it back, sliding Sandro Tonali, nicks the ball off Eze's toes, but it's out for a Palace throw-in, a couple of yards inside their own half. From what you know of Eddie Howe, do you think he will have had a go at half-time?
I would be surprised if he didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I think he will have gone in and said, hey, that's not acceptable. You know, that we need to see more intensity, more desire. Tempo's got to be so much better. Something that wasn't there in the first half.
Palace run themselves into trouble. Willock made the run in behind, the ball didn't reach him, it's intercepted, and now Will Hughes can try and carry it up towards the halfway line for Crystal Palace. towards Munoz on this right hand side. Square inside to Jefferson Lerma as Nottingham Forest take the lead at home to Ipswich in one of the other Premier League games this afternoon. Absolutely fired up towards Jean-Philippe Mateta, who was never going to be able to control that. Joe Linton dispossessed on the halfway line by Munoz on this right hand side for Palace, hence the cheers from the home crowd. Inside to Hughes, back out to Munoz, first time crosses towards the far side of the 6-yard box. Livramento up in the air by mistake. There's a push in the back from Nick Pope on Mateta, but it's the kind of thing that a goalkeeper will get away with, and he claims the ball.
Outfield player wouldn't.
Absolutely not, but the goalkeeper does. And he's sent Harvey Barnes flying down the right wing. He's got Livramento for company. It was inside by Livramento towards what he thought and hoped would have been a run from Barnes. It didn't exist, and Crystal Palace clear it out for throw-in on the far side. He has got a little bit lucky, Nick Pope, because he has pushed Mateta in the back with two hands.
Yeah, he has. But as you say, goalkeepers get away with that, don't they?
So it's a Newcastle United throw-in, pretty much on the halfway line on the far side. Taken by Livramento. Bruno comes and gets it from him, but it's backwards in Scher, and then square to Dan Burn inside the D on the edge of his own penalty area. Out to Lewis Hall on this left hand side. Newcastle didn't really create a single chance in the first half. The ball forward, Gordon gets there ahead of Henderson, who is under all sorts of pressure. He needs his central defender of Lacroix to come and
what's the
poke it out for
goalkeeper
a
doing?
corner. Henderson came out, got to the ball first with his feet, but sort of tried to control it rather than just thump it clear, and that let Gordon dispossess him. But his centre half has bailed him out. The first corner of the second half is a Newcastle one.
He's got no need to come there at all, the goalkeeper.
And it's from Newcastle's left, which means it'll be a right-footed in-swinger from Anthony Gordon. Once again, as with every other corner, Palace with everybody back. Gordon towards the 6-yard box. Mateta gets his head on it, so it's out of the penalty area on the far side. And Mitchell's going to get there ahead of a sliding Lewis Hall. He does well there. The referee plays advantage. It's up towards Will Hughes. He's got plenty of space and lays it off to Sarr, but he can't quite reach it. Livramento gets there first, knocked long forward down the left wing for Anthony Gordon. And it's all got a bit disjointed, but Newcastle might be able to benefit from this here. Gordon across the pitch from left to right, then turns back again. Tonali finds Joe Linton. Left hand corner of the penalty area. The overlap from Willock. Willock ends up offside, so he comes back, gives it to Tonali, back to Hall again. Palace have now got everybody behind the ball, but Newcastle still in possession. Tonali plays a pass that Willock did not know was coming. The ball actually isn't going to trickle out of play. Palace have to clear it up towards Mateta, miscontrols it on the halfway line, and it's a Newcastle throw.
He's just been bullied all over the place today. He hasn't had the physical presence to deal with Dan Burn.
It's also been a very scrappy opening 5 minutes of the second half. It was a little bit low on quality the first half. I think that's a nice way to put it. And a little bit stop-starty in terms of possession in the second half as well. Burn is put under too much pressure for him to clear it comfortably. He actually does well. Joe Linton just knocked off it on the halfway line by Chalobah, who then is dispossessed. And now Joe Willock can burst down the left wing, chased by Maxence Lacroix up towards the left-hand corner of the penalty area. Cuts back, goes square to Tonali. Towards the edge of the box, still out on this left hand side. Willock tries to find him, gets the deflection back in his path. The cross is headed out as far as Joe Linton controls the bouncing ball, knocks it back to Scher inside the centre circle. So Palace once again with everybody behind the ball, lacking a bit of penetration, Newcastle United, at the start of this second half. Barnes with a 1-2 and gets it back again down the right hand side, up towards Gordon, edge of the box. Referee will bring it back for a free kick, even though Gordon was in possession on the edge of the penalty area. It's a Newcastle free kick.
Yeah, as he went to sleep, he just let Barnes run off him.
Yeah, Lerma just stepping across him. Newcastle might have quite liked to have had the advantage played there, but Darren England has brought it back. And so it's a free kick that's on the diagonal from the right hand corner of the penalty spot. So it's probably about 23-24 yards out in a straight line from the goal. Again, it's Gordon and Hall.
Good position for the free kick.
There was a very similar one, a kind of mirror image one down in front of us in the first half on the right hand edge of the penalty area. That's just perfect for a left-footed delivery from Lewis Hall. Gordon stands there as well. The routine the last time was for Gordon to run over it. It wouldn't surprise me if the same thing happened again here. It does. Hall goes square to Tonali, edge of the box, then lays it off inside the box, cut across the 6-yard box. It's in. Newcastle have scored and Anthony Gordon claims it It was messy inside the 6-yard box, but a lovely free kick routine from Newcastle United got Gordon down towards the byline. He dummied the initial free kick. Lewis Hall laid it off to a teammate on the edge of the box, found the on-rushing Gordon, and then down the right-hand side it was cut across. I can only assume it's gone in off a Palace defender, because Anthony Gordon was the one who ran across to the Newcastle fans on the far side. 7 minutes gone in the second half, and Newcastle somehow, John Anderson, lead.
Yeah, I mean, first attempt on target, free kick, well worked free kick. From where we are, I can't even see who scored. I mean, taken it was Gordon, but it's one you need to see again. Well worked free kick. Tonali.
Defender, it's come off Mark Gahey, I think, inside the 6-yard box. Definitely a Crystal Palace defender.
Hi, Gahey.
But it's come about from a lovely Newcastle United free kick routine, in fairness to Newcastle.
Yeah. I mean, he's always going to do Hughes for pace. Gordon gets there, goes through the keeper's legs. Goalkeeper's got to do better. But Gahey, who all the talk has been about, all of a sudden scores an OG.
He does indeed. The free kick was from a dangerous position. It wasn't played the way we thought it would be, but it wasn't played the way that Crystal Palace thought it would be either. And Newcastle United have the lead here then, in the early-ish stages of the second half. Crystal Palace 0, Newcastle United 1. And a reminder that we haven't had a game between these two sides in the last 6 where both teams have scored. Well, that bodes well for Newcastle holding out. But there is a long way to go. They've only played 9 minutes of the second half, and they lead by a goal to 0. And
he's offside. It's got to be offside.
And the flag has not gone up yet. He hasn't touched the ball yet. He has now. The flag goes up, and everyone's had 5 seconds that they're not getting back. Eze with the ball over the top. Oh, sorry, on the receiving end of the ball over the top. And Adrian Holmes doing what he has to do, doing what the laws of the game tell him to do, waiting until Eze touches the ball before the flag goes up. And it's a Newcastle United free kick. Good start to the second half. Now that the goal's gone in, nothing else really has been that positive yet, but that might spark other things now, this goal.
Well, you would hope so. You would hope that it lifts the tempo, gives us a bit of belief.
Neat football between Joe Linton and Lewis Hall on the halfway line. Joe Linton then slides, makes the challenge from behind and brings down Ismail Assar, and it will be a free kick despite him claiming that he got the ball. Palace just made to take it from the right position, which is on the halfway line. Munoz goes back to Chalobah, who goes all the way back to Dean Henderson in the Palace goal on our left hand side in luminous yellow. It's good closing down from Joe Willett, gets a round of applause from Eddie Howe as well. It is just a Palace throw in midway inside their own half. Newcastle have won 3 and lost 3 of their last 6. Could make it 4 from 3. They lead 10 minutes into the second half. A Mark Gahey own goal. Henderson stumbles over the ball inside his own penalty area, needs Gahey to help him out, but Palace are really hemmed in on the right hand side, and it's good closing down from Tino Livramento right in front of his own away supporters as well. And that is exactly where Anthony Gordon ran as soon as that ball was turned in inadvertently by Mark Gahey. Palace up over the halfway line. Sarr gets on the flick on from Mateta, does well to bundle a couple of Newcastle players off the ball, but loses possession in the process. Tonali tries to poke it through for Willock. It's come off the shins though of Trevor Chalobah. Newcastle throw in now on their left wing, just about midway inside the Palace half. Reminder of the Newcastle bench: they've already brought on Harvey Barnes, that enforced substitution for Alexander Isak midway through the first half. Kieran Trippier, Callum Wilson, Will Osula, Jacob Murphy, Miguel Almiron, Sean Longstaff and Lloyd Kelly, the other outfield substitutes on the bench. Mateta wins it back for Palace inside the centre circle. Square to Lerma, who is flattered by Bruno Guimaraes. The Palace fans want the yellow card. The referee is content to just tell him not to do it again. And on the edge of the centre circle, but inside the Newcastle half, it is going to be a Crystal Palace free kick. Will Hughes comes back to take it as all 3 central defenders go forward to try and get on the end of it.
I'm not too sure how that's not a yellow card, to be quite honest.
Particularly, as I've already said this, for a reason, that Bruno Guimaraes is not one of those on 4 yellow cards. He's only on 3, but that's a couple of times that he could have picked up a 4th one today. Cher and Joe Linton, reminder, they are the 2. Palace go square with a free kick, even though they brought everybody forward for it. So Eze, back to Mitchell, back to Hughes, almost on the halfway line again. They've still got everyone forward, although a couple of the defenders now trot back. Gahey hasn't, but is dispossessed on the far side. The ball comes back off Livramento though, so it's going to be a Palace throw-in midway inside their own at the Newcastle half that they take quickly. Eze dribbling one side and the other. Then a ball across the face of the ball, a really good one. Munoz picks it up on the right hand side of the penalty area, down by the byline. Inside to Sarr, inside the box, lays it off. Hughes fancies an effort on goal. It hits the left shoulder of Fabian Cher, and it's going to be a corner, says the referee. And there's also going to be a yellow card for dissent here for a Crystal Palace player, and I think it might be for Jefferson Lerma, who seemed to be the one who lost his rag more than anyone else. It is indeed a yellow card for the Colombian midfielder. And we actually had a decent view of that, Ando, and it is his shoulder.
Yeah, he just dips his shoulder into it, doesn't he? I mean, they will have a look at it, but there's no way.
I mean, it's going to be a climb down from the referee, because he's absolutely adamant here that this is not handball. It's a little bit lower on his arm than I thought at first, but the play does restart. It is not going to be a penalty. Palace have taken the corner. Find Eze on the edge of the box, up against Anthony Gordon, trying to find space for a cross. Back to Hughes, whose left-footed effort is rather sliced, so it's the edge of the box. Palace win the header through Lerma, but it's cleared by Newcastle up towards the halfway line. Nobody forward for the away side though, so it's comfortable for Mitchell to try and knock it forward. The Newcastle header from the edge of the box isn't accurate. Back at the feet of Lacroix again on the far side for Palace. The Frenchman gets it back. There's some murmurings of discontent from Palace at a lack of ambition they see when they're in possession. Played 15 minutes of the second half. Newcastle now lead by a 1-0, and Palace go all the way back to their goalkeeper on the edge of the box.
It's unbelievable. You've got the ball on the edge of the opposition penalty area. You're a goal down, and then all of a sudden the ball ends back up at your goalkeeper. Possession doesn't score you goals.
No. Munoz wins the throw-in, takes the throw-in, and then gets a knock for his troubles as he tried to get the return pass from Jefferson Lerma. So the Colombian has just stayed down, but I think he stayed down because he took a knock where neither of us would want to take a knock.
Yeah, I think it's hit him on the...
You can say crown jewels, I reckon. Anyway.
He's probably thinking about the miss he had in the first half.
Yes, that'll have hurt more.
That would have hurt more, definitely.
Lewis Hall with a throw-in for Newcastle on the halfway line, right between the two managers who are both standing inside their technical areas, Oliver Glasner and Eddie Howe. The ball over the top from Bruno is too strong. Willock's not going to reach it, and Dean Henderson does.
Palace look flat, don't they? That goal is...
The goal hasn't sparked Palace into life. Pushing and pulling between Mateta and Byrne, which once again the referee decides is 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. The Newcastle allowed to play on. Livramento down the right wing, but is shepherded off the ball by a combination of Jefferson Lerma and Mark Gahey. And now Palace try and go through the middle. Lovely turn from Sarr, just blocked off by Dan Byrne, who did change his direction in order to get in front of the midfielder. And it's a Palace free kick that the referee is not allowing them to take quickly because it's 3 or 4 yards away from where it should have been taken. Brentford now 3-1 up. Oh, sorry, they were. That was the 8th minute of the first half, wasn't it? Over the top for Palace, controlled by Sarr. Has an effort on goal, tips by Pope. Munoz on target, but a brilliant block on the line from Dan Byrne. And it'll come out for a throw-in on this near side. It was a simple ball over the top. For the second time today, Ismaila Sarr has poked it towards goal, and Nick Pope has saved it. For the second time today, Munoz has had an effort on goal. This time it was on target, and it was with his right foot, but he was denied by Dan Byrne.
Well, it's just not his day, is it? I mean, he's got to put his foot through that one. He's just tried to side foot it. Good block, but you've got to put your foot through that.
But out of nothing, ball over the top for Sarr that he controlled well inside the penalty area. Pope towards goal, came off Pope's left arm out towards Munoz, maybe 8-9 yards out. You're right, Ando, side-footed it, got it on target. Nick Pope wasn't getting there, but Dan Burn bailed him out. And it remains 1-0 to Newcastle, who now have the ball on the halfway line through Anthony Gordon. There's a run from Willock as well, but it's a good tackle from Maxence Lafar. And now Palace have got the momentum. It's 4-on-4 here. Right through the middle is Sarr. Lays it off to Eza. Wants space for a shot. Isn't going to get it though. Runs straight into 3 Newcastle players. Hughes has a speculative effort that takes a big deflection and is out for a corner on the far side.
Should have let the ball go, shouldn't he? They had an overlap on that left hand side. He's decided to take it and he's just run into traffic.
It's Braintree 2, Gateshead 2, but Braintree are now down to 10 men. Brentford, having been 1-0 down, and are 4-1 up on Leicester City. Kevin Schade hat-trick. Crystal Palace trying to get themselves back into this game. Have a corner on the far side. It'll be a right footer from Eza towards the 6-yard box. Byrne rises highest, gets it out of the area to Hughes, who lays it back off for Eza again. Got time for a cross, but it's blocked well by Joe Willock. And Palace forced backwards. Gordon and Mitchell both put their heads in. It's the Palace defender who comes away with the ball, and then a wild challenge from behind from Joe Willock, and that will be a yellow card. The crowd wanted more.
Well, it was a yellow card for the first one.
Yeah. And Joe Willock goes into the referee's book.
He's pulled them back.
Yeah. And then
he's lunged, doesn't he? Yeah.
He really has lunged. Crystal Palace are going to make their first change as well. Off comes Ebere Eza. Back from injury. First appearance since the end of October. And he lasts almost 65 minutes. And he's replaced by the man he replaced in the starting lineup today, Justin Devaney, who we can now call a Northern Ireland international. Made his international debut in the most recent set of fixtures and scored for Aston Villa last weekend. Against Aston Villa for Crystal Palace last weekend. He's the most Scottish sounding Northern Irishman you'll ever come across. Qualifies through his mother, but came through the Scottish system at Kilmarnock and then at Airdrie as well. Will Hughes takes the free kick for Palace. Dan Burn heads it clear. Hughes puts Gordon under pressure down by his own goal line, but it's back to Sher and then up towards the halfway line. Willock, lovely layoff, and then Bruno sends Barnes down the right hand side as well. Willock has made another run through the middle. Barnes decided not to give it to him though, tried to take on Devaney, who wins the challenge but concedes the throw.
Yeah, could have done better with that. We had the break, we had the numbers.
Newcastle do have a throw in though. We're almost 3/4 of the way through the game. 66 minutes played now. Newcastle leading by a goal to nil. That own goal from Mark Gahey, but it came from a lovely free kick routine from Newcastle United, who now go down the left with Joe Linton. Cuts back on his right foot. The cross is headed clear by Palace. Byrne again wins it high above Mateta, but Palace's clearance this time. Devaney puts Livramento under pressure and Mateta nicks it off his toes. Palace with a break up towards the penalty area. Tonali with good tracking back. Mateta lays it off. There's a few more in this break now, in this attack for Palace. Will Hughes wants someone on the right wing. There isn't anyone. Munoz has come inside, lays it off, takes a deflection, and it's out for a Crystal Palace corner.
Yeah, there was no pace in the shot anyway, was there?
It was Jefferson Lerma from the edge of the box.
Another side foot.
Will Hughes got up there. Munoz laid it off. Sher turned his back on it but got his foot in the way. And it's a Crystal Palace corner that Justin Devaney, who's only just on the pitch, will take. Left-footed towards the edge of the 6-yard box. And Newcastle header is on it. It's out on the far side. Gahey keeps it in play. Back to Will Hughes. But everyone has stayed up for Crystal Palace here, even though the ball is back. Good distance now from Newcastle's goal as Ismaila Sarr comes and collects it midway inside the Newcastle half, down to Devaney on this right hand side. Lerma cuts it back for Devaney again inside the box. Him and Munoz really getting each other's way, and as Bruno Guimaraes tries to break away, he is fouled by Munoz, and it's a Newcastle free kick.
Yeah, it hasn't been the best of days for him, has it?
No, a very, very bad miss if you weren't with us for the first half. A really, really poor miss with his weaker, that we now know, left foot, Daniel Munoz.
And then he had another great chance.
with his right foot that he got on target.
Yeah.
That Dan Burn prevented from going in. That was after Newcastle had taken the lead in the 52nd minute. Still a long way to go in this, you suspect. Palace go long this time down their right hand side. Newcastle clearance. There's a tussle between Hughes and Bruno Guimaraes that the Newcastle captain wins. And wide to Willock on this left hand side. He's only got Bruno for company though. And then back to Joe Linton again. Not a huge amount of space, but they've worked this really nicely to Bruno. And then Lewis Hall, corner of the penalty area towards the far post. It's in front of Gordon. It's just nicked away from Harvey Barnes, his own rushing run, but he's picked it up by the corner flag. And then lays it off, Livramento. Square to Bruno, up towards Barnes again inside the penalty area, but intercepted by Palace. He'll try a break, but they've made a bit of a mess of that as well. Byrne just tries to ease the ball out of play. If anyone's a good header though on the halfway line now, and Mateta just dispossessed by Sandro Tonali. I don't think he knew the Italian was there.
Can't run, can he?
And Lewis Hall completes the clearance down the left hand side up towards Joe Willock. First touch isn't quite as close as he'd have hoped, and he's dispossessed by a combination of Chalobah and Lerma, and it's the centre half. He then gives it to Will Hughes. The game has really picked up a bit here. 22, probably 25 minutes including injury time left in this. Newcastle lead by 1-0. Dan Burn gets his defensive header all wrong, and it's out for a corner. That's a cheap corner.
Yeah, he could have just got his feet tangled up, didn't he? He could have powered that away. Instead came off the top of his head, flown over the top of the crossbar.
Devaney, who took the corner a couple of minutes ago with his left foot as an in-swinger from this near side, is going to go and do it as an outswinger from the far side now. Newcastle with everyone inside the box. It's towards the penalty spot. The header comes in from Gahey. It's a foot over the crossbar. I think Nick Pope had it covered. Yeah, but again, it's a free header.
Yeah, but it's no power in it. He's just dinked it, hasn't he? Just dinked the header. Hasn't really got it on target. Gone over the top. But as you say, it's another free header.
Nick Pope just being told to get on with it by the referee, Darren England. He will take this goal kick, all in light blue. Long. Gordon wins the header actually in front of Chalobah, but it breaks the way of Dean Henderson, and it's essentially gone from one goalkeeper to another. 20 minutes left on the clock. Newcastle leading by 1-0 elsewhere in the Premier League. Brentford 4-1 up on Leicester City. Nottingham Forest lead Ipswich by 1-0, a Chris Wood penalty. And Bournemouth 3-1 up at Molineux against Wolves. 5:30 game is West Ham against Arsenal. Lewis Hall intercepts it inside his own half, but it's given away again. Chalobah picks it off his toes. The ball in behind from Mateta. A good sliding challenge from Schär. Palace have still got the ball inside the Newcastle penalty area though. The layoff to Munoz forces him wider than he wanted to be.
Sarr again.
Hughes to Chalobah. Munoz level with the edge of the box on this right hand side, but then just chips it back towards Lacroix and then square to Mark Gahey, but everyone within 40 yards of Newcastle's goal. It's miscontrolled by Devaney, and Fabian Schär thumps it clear. Henderson comes way out of his goal, makes a right hash of that, and it's straight out for a throw-in under really no pressure. Tried a slightly wild volley and it went sideways, and it's out for a Newcastle throw-in.
Yeah, it wasn't great, was it?
Palace look sort of 80% threatening, and then it's that final
you just don't
section
see it.
of the move that just isn't coming.
Nah, you just don't see it.
Throw in taken on the far side by Newcastle.
If anything, you'll probably see us getting a second.
Might need to have a shot on goal for that. Livramento with a throw in. Inside to Bruno, under pressure from Will Hughes. Knocks it back to Dan Burn inside his own half. And then out to Lewis Hall. Joe Linton comes short for it. A couple of yards in from the touchline, right in front of Eddie Howe. Square to Tonali along the halfway line. Back to Burn. Palace slowly coming forwards. Tried to go over the top, did Schär, for Harvey Barnes, who slipped, but I also think he'd made a run toward there. And Palace have cheap possession back again. Will Hughes comes and collects it off his French centre half, but then gives it back to him again. He goes up towards Lerma. Tonali gets in the way of it. Out for a throw in on this near side. Munoz will take. No obvious activity on either bench, actually. Both sides having made one change. Newcastle in the first half, when Isak went off injured. Palace making one in the second.
Oh, Devaney he hasn't had the best of times since coming on,
has
he?
Dispossessed, admittedly deep inside the Newcastle half. Palace will get a free kick for a foul by Harvey Barnes on Mark Gahey. Take it quickly and short. Sarr lays it back to Hughes again, but again it just bobbled off the feet of Ismaila Sarr. He's still in possession though. Gahey over the halfway line, the left hand side of that back three. And they work it out to this right hand side. Munoz first time inside. Lerma up towards the penalty area. Sarr turns, forces a very good save from Nick Pope, and it's a corner.
Yeah, it's a save you'd expect him to make. It's a decent height, near post.
It will be another Crystal Palace corner. And Justin Devaney, who's been certainly involved since coming on 5 or 6 minutes ago, will come and take this. There's the edge of the 6-yard box. Livramento gets the first head on it. Mateta tries to turn, and he does, and he's lashed it over the crossbar. And Newcastle United get a little bit fortunate because they didn't deal with the second ball.
No, another corner kick, didn't deal with it.
Livramento's was the first header. Livramento won the first header, but all he did was knock it onto the head of Mark Gahey. Mateta controlled it, spun, admittedly in a very tight area,
but should hit the target,
and knocked it over. And this is what I get for saying there wasn't much activity on the benches. Newcastle United are going to make 2 changes now. Callum Wilson comes on. It is Anthony Gordon who goes off. So that will be striker for striker as far as today's game is concerned. And the other man coming on is Sean Longstaff, replaced in the 11 by Tonali today, but it is Joe Willock who departs this time. On comes Sean Longstaff, and the game will restart with a goal kick for Newcastle United. So Tonali, Guimaraes and Longstaff, that midfield 3 now, and Joe Linton and Harvey Barnes either side of Callum Wilson for Newcastle United. Wolves have got one back. It's Wolves 2, Bournemouth 3. Larsson with his second. But Newcastle United lead by a 1-0 with exactly 15 minutes left of the 90. Mark Gahey own goal 7 minutes into the second half. Palace miscontrol it on the halfway line. Hughes slides in. Solid challenge on Bruno. Wins the ball. Breaks the way of the Palace number 55, Justin Devaney. And then Tyreek Mitchell trying to burst down the left. Tonali keeps pace with him though. Comes back to Lerma. Clipped up towards Munoz. Couldn't get there. He'd got the wrong side of Joe Linton. He's still just holding that left shoulder, Joe Linton.
It's a straight ball though. It's a real difficult. I mean, yeah, it's a $1 million ball.
Newcastle go long. Barnes lays it off on the halfway line up to Wilson for his first touch since coming on. Palace can't clear it, so it'll break the way of Harvey Barnes again, who is offside, and that brings that particular move to an abrupt end. They're like-for-like changes for Newcastle United. We'll come back to that in just a minute because Palace are making a change of their own. Theirs is not a like-for-like change because they remove Will Hughes from the middle of midfield and they bring on Eddie Nketiah, their number 9, to go right through the middle and ask someone else, probably Justin Devaney, to sit in the middle of midfield along with Jefferson Lerma. But it's a more attacking lineup that Newcastle are going to have to deal with. Joe Linton with good defensive work, who then clears it down the left wing. But from a Newcastle point of view, they were like-for-like changes to not actually change the game necessarily, just keep the team a bit fresher.
Yeah, you just got to keep doing what you're doing because I mean, it's solid enough without really creating a great deal. But I mean, Palace have shown absolutely nothing, have they?
I know why you've said that, and yet they've probably created well, they have created more good chances than Newcastle have by a distance.
Well, they had the one in the first half, the obvious one. I mean, that's...
And the save from Nick Pope with his feet 2 minutes before that, I think.
Yeah, but he was offside, wasn't he?
He was offside. None of that matters if Newcastle go back up the road with 3 points, of course. Mark Gahey under no pressure up towards the halfway line. Lacroix tries to go through the middle this time. Eddie Nketiah gets his first touch. It's a heavy layoff. Chalobah nicks it off Sean Longstaff's toes though. Lerma miscontrols it. Him and Barnes go in for a challenge. It ricochets off Barnes, but Newcastle have it back through Tonali just inside their own half, and then find Barnes on the far side. He's got an overlap as well from Livramento down towards the corner flag, being put under pressure from Lacroix. The Frenchman nicks the ball away from Livramento, puts it out for a throw-in, a Newcastle throw-in 6 or 7 yards from the corner flag, down on the right hand side, right in front of that big travelling support. The referee just going to make sure that they take this throw-in from the right position. 11.5 minutes to go here at Selhurst Park, plus whatever injury time we get. We've not had an injury stoppage in the second half that I can recall. We used up our quota in the first half. The move comes to nothing though. Palace have now got to throw in exactly the same place.
Well, you can hem them in. I mean, it's right by their touch corner flag, and keep them in there. There you go, won it back. Got to throw in out of it.
They have. Tino Livramento will not be in any hurry to take, but he will take. Pretty much midway inside the Crystal Palace half. Would be the perfect way to bounce back from defeat on Monday night, and would move Newcastle to 4 wins from 5 as well. Bruno is just fouled just inside from the touchline on the far side, so this is going to be a Newcastle United free kick. I mean, literally just in from the touchline. Lewis Hall walks over to take it. I don't think there'll be a fancy routine this time. There's no one else there with him. It will just be a straightforward delivery, and with the exception of Sandro Tonali and Tino Livramento and the one-man wall, everyone else is lined up along the edge of the 18-yard box. Hall delivers towards the far post. A couple of Palace players getting each other's way. It's off the head of Chalobah and out for a corner. And there was no Newcastle player really challenging for that.
No, total lack of communication in that Palace back four.
Chalobah and Lerma who got in each other's way, but the upshot of it is a Newcastle United corner. No Anthony Gordon on the pitch to take this now, so it'll be Sandro Tonali. Comes out to take it. Wolves 2, Bournemouth 4 now at Molineux. Tonali by the corner inside the 6-yard box. Henderson got nowhere near it. It's come off another Palace head and out for another corner on the far side.
Yeah, he hasn't filled you with any confidence, has he, the goalkeeper?
And Scher's the one looking most disappointed because it's his head that it was just nicked off right in front of him by Trevor Chalobah.
Good touch by Chalobah, wasn't it?
So the corner is taken, or about to be taken, by Hall from the far side. It's a deep one again. Really good rising header from Mark Gahey, who in the eyes of the referee was being fouled in the process. And it's a Crystal Palace free kick inside their own penalty area. 9 minutes to go.
You wouldn't think they were getting...
No, Newcastle are quite entitled to approach this game this way now, given that they lead. Crystal Palace need a bit more urgency. They have only won once all season long, Crystal Palace. It was here against Spurs. They've got to go some way to salvage a result from today. Tonali heads it forward towards Barnes, up towards the edge of the penalty area. Benefits from one ricochet but not the second, and it is walloped by Trevor Chalobah. That's a 50-22, that.
Yeah.
And it's out for a throw-in midway inside the Newcastle half. And if Tino Livramento walked any more slowly, he'd stop. But he will take this throw-in inside the Newcastle United half. Barnes comes short for him. The game is still flat, but it's now to Newcastle's advantage that it's flat. Bruno wants handball but doesn't get it. Hooked forward by Palace. Byrne has to head the bouncing ball sideways to Scher. He does the same thing to Livramento. Lays it off to Tonali. A little bit eager with the ball forwards. Livramento gets the second ball again. Wilson tries to get in behind Lacroix. He does. Lays it off to Longstaff. Newcastle have got men up in this attack here. Barnes has got Livramento on the overlap if he wants him. He didn't give it to him the first time, so Livramento stopped. Then Barnes played the ball, but by that point it was too late. And the crowd want a bit of urgency from Crystal Palace.
There's been nothing about Palace whatsoever.
Henderson with the ball dropped to his feet, goes long through the middle. Byrne rises highest, stretching as he does it. Livramento thumps it clear. The referee says he was fouled by Eddie Nketiah as he did it, and Livramento will just stay down for as long as he can justify. And Newcastle have a free kick 25-30 yards from their own goal. First of 3 games this week for both of these sides, actually. Newcastle, of course, have Liverpool at St James's Park on Wednesday night, and then back down in the capital for Brentford. Another attacking change for Crystal Palace here, because Jeffrey Schlupp is going to come on for Trevor Chalobah, so it's going to be a back 4 now for Palace, you would imagine. Wing-backs become full-backs, and they have made the personnel changes that suggest they're going for it, but they've yet to really look like they're going for it by putting a move together. Devaney just tugs Bruno's shirt back, and the referee does bring it back, even though Palace were on what they thought was a counter-attack. It's brought back for a foul against the Northern Irishman.
Yeah, Devaney just hasn't been able to get to the pace of it, has he? It's not as if it's been a great deal of pace in it.
almost 6 minutes actually now. 6 minutes to go plus stoppage time. Newcastle lead at Crystal Palace by 1-0. Mark Gahey own goal, but it came from a lovely free kick routine from Newcastle United 7 minutes into the second half. Tonali and Hall stand over this free kick. It's probably about 5 yards too far away for either of them to have an effort on goal. Palace to bring everyone behind the ball. Lewis Hall insists that Devaney isn't 10 yards. The referee insists he is. Tonali runs over it. Hall delivers towards the far post, and Munoz is forced to put it out for a corner. And Newcastle
could have let it go, couldn't he?
Again, don't attack the ball at the far post, but get a corner out of it.
Could have let it go.
And Lewis Hall will trot over to take it on the far side. And I know every club sets themselves up beforehand how they're going to defend corners, but again, Palace have nobody outside their own penalty area. Lewis Hall to take the corner. It's a deeper, higher one this time. Beats everybody, including Joe Linton at the back post, but at least he can keep it in play. Lay it off to Longstaff, corner of the penalty area on the left-hand side. Joe Linton just in from the touchline. Bruno just bounced off it, but does well to keep possession and win a corner. I hesitate slightly because it's so close to the corner flag, and the referee's signal wasn't the most obvious, but the way Palace are defending this, yes, it is. It's another corner for Newcastle. And the referee just wants Joe Linton and Tonali to get on with it. 4.5 minutes plus injury time to go. If the ball's down that end of the pitch, Ando, we can't see it, but Newcastle are happy.
No. Yeah. Keep it down there.
Tonali will take this corner, and he doesn't have any short options. So it's in towards the box, towards the far post. Palace head it clear as far as Hall. Lays it off on the half volley, but it's going to be quite far behind Tonali. Back towards his own halfway line, but then a good ball over the top, nearly finds Wilson. Mateta gets his head on it, and it's out for a corner on the far side. And Palace are conceding cheap corner time and again, and Newcastle have got the ball where they want it.
Exactly. I mean, Palace have just... They're all over the place now at the minute. 2 centre-backs. I mean, it's your centre-forward who's playing centre-back there.
Well, he was back defending the previous corner,
but
didn't come out.
None of the centre-backs had picked Wilson up coming out.
Hall again to take the corner on the far side. It's a congested penalty area. This one's a little bit flatter. It's headed out again though by Palace. Longstaff's ball on the edge of the box just about finds Tonali. He has to control it with his head before he finds Lewis Hall. Back to Livramento just inside the Palace half, but Palace still with everybody behind the ball. Trying to go down the right wing for Lewis Hall, they do. Tonali is fouled as he pokes it towards Lewis Hall, and then the referee, who played quite a long advantage there, brings it back for the foul on the Italian, and it's a yellow card.
But why didn't he do that in the first place?
Tyrick Mitchell. I think he was trying to play advantage.
Yeah, but if he was going to book him,
it's been another booking for dissent here, as the referee is now calling a different Crystal Palace player back to him. He's going to insist that he comes back to him, and if he doesn't come back to him, you'll get another one here. And the referee is still holding the yellow card in his left hand, waiting for someone now. Because the player that he booked is so far away from him, I have no idea who that was.
But I hate it when referees do that. Just book him, write it down.
I think part of it, if I'm going to defend the referee, is that the player has to be aware that he's been booked.
Well, of course he knows.
Well, no, because that wasn't for the foul. This is a separate one for dissent. So he can't just show the yellow card to the player's back, because then he could go and commit another foul and claim he didn't know he was on a yellow card. Either way, I mean, not that I know which player it was. Somebody else has been booked. There's a gaggle of players on the edge of the penalty area now, as Lewis Hall takes this free kick towards the penalty spot, up in the air from Mateta. Control in the chest by Joe Linton, but it's nicked off his toes, and Nketiah's clearance isn't good. But Devaney just benefits from the ricochet and tries to clear it out, but Bruno sort of won the challenge. I'm trying to work out who it's gone out for a throw-in for on the far side. I think it's a Newcastle ball.
No, it is, yeah.
Livramento's got the ball in his hands, a couple of yards inside the Newcastle half. All of this is eating up time that Newcastle are very merrily seeing disappear. Livramento takes the throw in over the halfway line. Wilson comes and collects it. It comes off him as he tried to get it round Tyreek Mitchell though, and the Palace fans over the far side want a bit of urgency, frankly. There's a yellow card for Callum Wilson now, which I'm sure was for dissent because there was no foul involved.
He's got to get his card ratio up, you see. Hadn't booked enough.
Yeah, I mean it was quite high before this game, if I'm honest, for Darren England. He's just about surpassing his average now, I think. Newcastle have gone backwards but kept the ball. It's a throw-in for them, level with the edge of their own penalty area. Morpeth Town, by the way, who were 3-0 down at home to Matlock, have brought it back and it's now 3-all. We are 30 seconds from the end of the 90 minutes here. Palace have possession inside the Newcastle half, but it's bobbling about. Tonali up towards Wilson, but he's dispossessed, and Palace will try and build something down the left-hand side. Back heel from Nketiah puts Scher under pressure, but all he can do, the former Arsenal man, is dispossess Scher, but run it over the byline, and it's a Newcastle United goal kick. And we will have 5 minutes of injury time once again. We had 5 at the end. 5 at the end of the second. Difference now is that Newcastle are in the lead.
I'm amazed that so many people have stayed here, you know.
Yeah, as a I mean, there's a few leaving, but as a proportion, they are very few. Nick Pope takes his time over this goal kick. It's the Newcastle fans that you can hear on the far side, and not a single one of them will care how awful a football match it's been if Newcastle go home with all 3 points. Hall wins a header on the halfway line. And it's broken to Tyreek Mitchell on the left-hand side, now playing left back rather than left wing back. Palace made a couple of tactical changes in the second half. Gahey, just neat change of direction on the pressure from Callum Wilson, who wants Longstaff to join in the press, and he doesn't. So Munoz has got a bit of space down the right-hand side for Palace. Schlupp. It's the first time we've mentioned Jeffrey Schlupp since he came on about 10 minutes ago. But Tonali's got a bit of space, actually runs out of space on the left-hand touchline, and right in front of Eddie Howe there is a Crystal Palace throw-in. And Newcastle have got 3.5 minutes to just stay disciplined here. That's all it's about now. As over the halfway line come Palace. Through Mitchell and Lerma, and they go backwards, and Lacroix inside the centre circle. I mean, we don't want them to go forwards, but we know why the Palace fans are frustrated that they're going backwards. Munoz on the right wing now, into Devaney, who at least knocks the ball forward, but Livramento is going to comfortably head that clear. Barnes has got time to control it on the edge of the penalty area, make 10 yards or so, and then flick it out to the left for Longstaff over the halfway line. Might just run this one to the corner. Sean Longstaff changes back, turns back I should say. Lewis Hall square across the halfway line to Fabian Scher. We've played 2 of our minimum 5 additional minutes. Clipped down the right hand touchline for Harvey Barnes, who commits a foul right in front of the assistant referee. Andrew Fox says that's a free kick. Palace take it quickly, but again it's back at the feet of their goalkeeper. And Daniel Munoz, who missed by far the biggest chance of this game. Goes square to Lerma, over the halfway line. The crowd are trying to urge Crystal Palace forward, and the players aren't particularly listening. Lerma, square to Devaney. Midway inside the Newcastle half. Sarr now playing on the right wing effectively, with so many different substitutions. Devaney then square across the centre circle to Mark Gahey. Tries to find Sarr again. Joe Linton gets his head on it. It's out for a Crystal Palace throw. There's a huge roar from Joe Linton. Slightly incongruous. Munoz takes the throw in quickly to Devaney. Gets the ball into the box. Sher is knocked off it. Palace win it. Gahey on the edge of the penalty area. Can't quite control it. But Palace still in possession now, up towards the edge of the Newcastle box. Mitchell. Square for Eddie Nketiah. 25 yards out. Faces up against Bruno. Isn't going to find space for a shot, but does fire it out to Munoz wide on this right hand side. His left foot is used for a cross this time. It's deflected out only as far as Devaney. Palace have got all the territory here. Newcastle with everybody behind the ball within 30 yards of their own goal. The cross comes in towards the far post. Munoz heads it.
Oh no!
Daniel Munoz with an awful miss in the first half, but an equaliser deep into second half injury time. They took their time, did Crystal Palace. The cross towards the far post was over the top of every Newcastle player. Daniel Munoz got his header down towards the near post. Nick Pope couldn't keep it out. And after 94 minutes, it is Crystal Palace 1, Newcastle United 1.
Oh, it's poor defending again. I mean, you've got to get close to the ball. You've got to stop the ball coming in. But it's a free header at the back post. I mean, they hadn't shown anything whatsoever, Palace.
But 20 seconds before the goal, Newcastle had just dropped so deep.
Yeah.
And by all means defend your lead, of course you do. But so deep. It was Mark Gahey, the centre half, who crossed it in for Munoz at the back post. It's his first goal of the season. There might still be time for a Newcastle break here. Guimaraes up towards the edge of the box. Palace clear it though and win a free kick because Lerma is knocked off it in the air by Sandro Tonali. And the complexion clearly of how we analyse this football match changes entirely. We've played our 5 minutes. There will be a little bit added on for the Crystal Palace celebrations. But Dean Henderson has a free kick for Palace midway inside their own half. They will now go long. We'll see how long Darren England adds on here. Joe Linton wins the header, but only as far as Sarr, who gets it across. Mateta controls it. Byrne wins the header. Tonali thumps it clear. Gahey wins the header inside the centre circle. Bruno Guimaraes wins the second header. Tonali wins the third header. Bruno tries to bring it down, can't really, but he is fouled, says the referee. And that might be that. The referee insists that Newcastle wanted to take that free kick quickly.
Yeah.
The referee said, no, you're going to take it from the right place, and Eddie Howe just wants everybody to calm down. They are going to be allowed to knock this ball long forward though, Newcastle. Lewis Hall, inside his own penalty area, but it's inside his own half, in the centre circle. That is it. And if ever there was a draw that felt like a defeat, this is it. Crystal Palace 1, Newcastle United 1. Two sets of players just come together a little bit on the edge of the Palace area after the final whistle has gone, but it does turn into handshakes in the end. It wasn't a great game of football, but it was nearly a game of football that Newcastle United escaped from with 3 points. It was goalless at half time. A good free kick routine 7 minutes into the second half from Newcastle, so Anthony Gordon square the ball across the face of goal, and it was turned into his own net by Mark Gahey. Palace probably had the better of the chances throughout the game. It's hard to name another good Newcastle United opportunity, but they were a minute away from being home and hosed. Dropped deep to defend that lead in the last few minutes. Palace, who did not look like scoring, crossed it from left to right. Mark Gahey with a cross. Munoz snuck in behind Joelinton at the far post. His header was down and just inside the goal. Nick Pope couldn't reach it. They celebrated like they'd won the Champions League, Crystal Palace, because they've nicked a point that they don't really deserve. But also, John Anderson, I think it's quite hard to walk away from here and say Newcastle were unlucky.
I was going to say, when you said they don't deserve, I didn't think we deserved to win it either.
No.
Neither side deserved anything from the game. Both sides were poor. You would say, if anything, Palace had the better of the chances. But in saying that, if you're 1-up going into the last minute of added on time, you make sure you defend properly and you get out of here and you thanks very much. We may not have deserved it, but we've got something we probably didn't deserve. And as you said, look, it's a point, but it could feel like a defeat because we didn't play well. We didn't create anything at all again. We got ourselves in front. Palace looked like they totally ran out of ideas. I mean, for the last 10 minutes, they were nowhere, Palace. And then all of a sudden we drop. Centre back plays a cross in and the right back heads it in. You know, it's just poor. But it was a poor performance. And that's the levels of performance was poor.
And we wouldn't have talked about it as much, obviously, if Newcastle had won the game, because it would have been about being back to winning ways and winning 4 out of 5 and finding a way to win and all those sorts of cliched conversations that we can't have now. And therefore there will be a focus on the fact that Eddie Howe thought the last half an hour against West Ham was disjointed. That was disjointed for the best part of 90.
That was disjointed for 90 minutes. Totally. You lose your centre forward and he brings on a left winger when you had 2 centre forwards on the bench. I know the fitness of Wilson is an issue, but young Asula, he obviously doesn't think is up to it. I mean, and that's, people say, oh well, but he had an opportunity to give the boy game time again today and he hasn't done it, so he obviously doesn't think that he's good enough at this moment in time to go and play.
Get your calls in 0800 234 6565, the number to call. Ando's going to be here until 5:45. Plenty for you to talk about, but one more for you, Ando, because yes, there was a conversation about strikers during the game today because Isak went off, but he went off with an injury. It's Liverpool at home on Wednesday night. Eddie Howe had a decision to make after 20 minutes. He's got a decision to make ahead of Wednesday now if Isak doesn't make it.
I think Isak will be ready for Wednesday night because it was only a knock.
Yeah.
A knock on the hip, knock on the bone. I'd be amazed if he's not alright. If not, I think you've got to start Wilson. Yeah. I really do.
For 93 minutes, did Newcastle defend well?
They didn't have a great deal of defending to do. They didn't have to defend. Look, let's not kid ourselves. Palace were poor. Palace are a poor side. They didn't have to defend particularly well, but when they had to defend properly, they didn't do it.
Lots of ways for you to get in touch with John Anderson. That number again, 0800 234 6565. You can send us a WhatsApp message as well on 08000 321 333 or a text message on 81333. In both of those cases, start your message with the letters BBC and put your name on the end of them as well. But we do like to hear from you in person. 0800 234 6565. 45 minutes to dissect a disappointing 94-minute performance because it finished here at Selhurst Park. Crystal Palace 1, Newcastle United 1.